Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're doing well. We're going well so far. We're live. We're live. We're back. We're cool. We're back where we should be. Back every Sunday again. Welcome to the Sunday service. It is 2 p.m. and we are back on air. You'll have to give me some idea what that sounds like because I've been trying the audio here all morning and it seems to be working fine, but you know how these things go. It's been 2 months since I turned on the audio, so I want to make sure it's not too loud on you. It all seems good on my end though, which is pretty nice. Thank you very much for joining again into the Sunday service. It has been a long run without you. But I did need a break. Everybody needs a break, and we always need something to look forward to. So we always need something to come back to. And it's been 2 months, I think, a little bit under, I think, 2 months since I stopped doing the Sunday service. Didn't stop, just took a break from it. The reason I took a break was quite simply I'd been doing it for basically 12 months straight. Every single Sunday, I think we missed 1 or 2 in that whole 12 months. So it's absolutely crazy to see how fast it comes back around. And I loved every week. It was absolutely brilliant, but I just needed a little break from having been stuck on every single Sunday. So now it's back done. Now we're back for another run. We're looking forward to some slightly different things ahead, which will be some live streams from car shows, which is another thing I'm going to try and do this year, to try and bring this you guys on the Sunday service who maybe aren't at a car show to the car show by going live from the car show directly. We've done it before. We did it with the EV Association. We did one Sunday with them down at some charge point. The name escapes me. I can't remember what that was, but we did that before. So it's not our first time to do it. Thank you very much. If you could share the live and follow the host while you're here, it'd be brilliant. We're literally being pushed out on every sort of platform at the moment. It takes a long time for YouTube to realize what you're doing. That happens a lot. My speakers are gone wild for some reason. For some reason, my speakers decided over the break to have an idea that they just go, well, I'm going to pick up every single mobile phone that even goes tick in the area. So now it goes every time I get a message. Anyway, Robert Mulhall is here. Afternoon. Good to see you, sir. Andy FX7. Some of the familiar names are already back into the chat. The best show on air. Thank you very much, Andy. Have you noticed, what do you say there? Have you noticed the kite flying by main dealers, the ideal car website, then they ask it, it's sold 2 weeks later, it's still up, challenge 2 main dealers about this, got political answers. This happens, the invitation to purchase, what they call the internet websites out there, which just means that you are invited to purchase. It doesn't mean they actually have to deliver the product to you. There's been lots of court cases over the years about the price that websites say things are versus the real price in shops. So some places say, you can have a TV for $5.99. When you get to the shop, it's $599. They go, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. So they do that, but it's meant to be an invitation to purchase. So dealerships are probably feeling the pinch. You have to remember, car sales are down overall on new cars, and I mean they're floored overall on new cars. Used cars are singing away, which is brilliant. I've been working with Kiri's car store over the break for the last couple of months, making videos for them on their website and their YouTube channel as well. And I've been in the dealership just watching the comings and going. You'd be surprised when people come in there on a daily basis just looking for cars. There really is an appetite for it now again, and it's lovely to see the appetite for used cars coming, which of course is, I think, the most environmentally friendly way of keeping a car on the road, is to keep it on the road forever. Speaking of which, I just spent a bloody fortune on putting the Seat Leon back on the road. New tyres, new time belt, new water pump, new service kit. We need an ABS sensor. Just a list was endless. Standing around outside the front door during the COVID lockdown didn't do it any favours. It's a 17-year-old car, so it's old. It's a teenager. It's well into the teenage years. It's getting old now. And it's getting tired. Welcome back to you as well, Raymond Grace. Thank you. Eric Rocher, thank you very much. Good to be back. It is good to be back. It's good to have a bit of crack on. Good man, Big Bob. Welcome back to On a Roll on Two Bells. We're here as well. GC, thank you. Kieran says, do you think Salted Sundays will be back? I don't know, to be honest with you, Kieran. I've talked to the organiser of Salted Sundays. If you're not aware, Salted Sundays happened over the break. I attended it. I was actually there. I wasn't one of the organisers, but I was there on a day of it, and nothing particularly really happened. But it was essentially the culmination of 4 or 5 weeks of Salt Hill Sundays happening every single week. And I think the people of Salt Hill felt a little bit aggrieved by that. I didn't realise it was going on every week. I thought it was the first one. But then it got kind of cancelled, went into all the newspapers and went all the way out, and it seemed like young people were being just targeted by the media, just going, young people are not allowed to have crack, simple as that. And that's what it seemed like to me. So I sided in on the side of the young driver out there, because nobody else seems to want to do that. And now Salt Hill Sundays is kind of up in the air now. I'm trying to get an airport for people to play in. That's what I really want to do, is just get an airport. But that's just me. But yes, I think it will come back, but I don't think it'll come back as a weekly event. I don't think that'd be fair. A quick mention while I think of it right now is you can join me at a live show on the 31st of July in Junction 14, Mayfield on the N7. We'll be hosting a car show meet car show at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night. It's called Summer Vibes. It's on my Facebook page. It's on my Instagram account. It's on everywhere. It's pretty much everywhere. Please book the day, the evening. It's the 31st July. It's a bank holiday weekend. Drop down, bring your car. You don't need a big, fast, funky car to bring along. Just bring along whatever you got. You can park up. You can get a bag of chips or something in Supermax inside Junction 14. And then come out to the yard and have a look around. There'll be some cool stuff there. It's ourselves and Kildare Car Scene, who is a group of guys we got together with a few months back. They asked us to come along to their car meet, and the car meet turned out to be the biggest car meet that I ever had. So we've stayed involved in them, and they're nice guys, and we're doing okay so far. Sounds and look great. Thank you, Bender Balsam. Very good. Ben Moore. Hi, Bob. Get ready for the pulling up to Junction 14, doing a reverse donuts on my Nan's events. You could try. Don't know how the reverse donuts is going to work too well, to be honest with you. Is it worth buying a new diesel car? Well, that's the debate. Adieu, Matthew. That is a big debate. Currently, I would say if you're not in the electric terms of things, if you can't afford it, and let's face it, how many people can actually afford an electric car? 50,000 euros, most of them. If you want to get the kind of basic driving to work ones, you can get them a little bit cheaper, like the Renault Zoe or the MG ZS or one of those kind of cars in there. They're also a little bit cheaper to buy, but realistically, to replace something good you got now with something good that you want, you're going to be spending over 50 grand. I'm currently driving what I think is the best of the electric cars at the moment. It's the Mercedes EQA. It's absolutely phenomenal. Drove to Drogheda last night and back, and I still have a little charge outside. I could probably do another 40 kilometres in it. It's really, really good. But if you're not into that and you're looking for the diesel thing, if your mileage is high, if you're still doing very high mileage, I would stay with diesel where you were. Because right now you're buying into the top end of the market. You'll spend a lot of money to move from a diesel to electric. If you're just looking to buy a new car, then look at the PHEV range of stuff. The grant is going off them, so they're not getting £5,000 grant anymore. The end of this month, which is only 2 or 3 days away, it's going down to £2,500. So the price of PHEVs are going up. So there'd be a lot of choices to make. I would still buy a diesel if I was doing very high mileage. And that's where diesel should have been all along. It should never have been sold to low mileage people. It's stupid to sell it to low mileage people. It doesn't make any sense. Hellhound is here as well. Hello, Hellhound. How are you doing? What's the crack? That's a good name. What's the crack? About how's it going to see me yesterday? Oh, come on. That's good. Yeah, I was at a meet last night in Drogheda. I mentioned there a second ago by a lovely group of guys who are called. The name escapes me. Who actually organised the meet. I was going to say Broke by Car Club, but it's not them. It was a different crowd. Anyway, it'll come to me as we go along. It was a good old meet last night. Actually, there was a good couple of, maybe 200 cars there last night. It was lovely, very chill vibe to the whole thing. People just wandering about and having a look at other people's cars. Some really cool cars. There was an El Camino there last night. I put a picture up on my Instagram of an Avenzas that I saw last night, which I thought was absolutely phenomenally, very tastefully done as a modified car. Lowered, bigger alloys. Looks totally different from just a standard Avenzas. And some changes done to it as well. Really, really good little meet. I couldn't stay very long because it's an hour and a half from Drogheda to here. And I'd already driven an hour and a half up, so I got to go back down again. It was a long one. So I had to go a little bit early. But I did. I put in an appearance as much as I possibly could. Jason McConnell was there with me last night as well. He brought the GTR, the Nissan GTR thing with him. And of course gave a little rev and a few flames out of the boot of it. It's quite nice. It's a cool car. It's the Republic of Motors car, which is a little project myself and Jason are working on separately from my YouTube channel. Another YouTube channel is going up here called Republic of Motors, where myself and Jason is going to upload stuff that's just kind of mad stuff. But we're working on it. It's hard to put that together, along with putting together car meets and things. It's really cool. Nice to see you back. Good man, Peter Cupid. Good to see you here as well. Kieran M is here as well. Richard Cullen, thank you very much. Welcome back. You're very kind to say. Hobbs the Rotty. Wow. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Very good to have you here. They're super chat members. That's what they are. They've been on the super chats or on the support of the channel through payments. If you want to do that, you can do it through PayPal or Patreon. There's loads of the links down below if you want to do that. Or you can buy the t-shirts. Not the t-shirts aren't up yet. This is just like a sample t-shirt, but they will look like this. We've ordered a stock of these to come in today. This is a charcoal one. They come in a olive green, black. We're going to have all the colours up. I'm going to be putting them on the website tonight. I think they'll be €15. I actually have to change that camera. The camera's doing a little hunt on the focus, which is very annoying. It annoys my eye looking at it, but you have to physically turn it off every time. For some reason, there it is now. It's turned off now. That'll be the end of that. Right, back into that. Bender Boston said merch shipping to the US. It certainly does. Yeah, we'd have to work out the US carriage. Depends on what you order. Depends on the weight and the size of it. The US is kind of weird on its shipping thing, so it comes down to not just the size of the actual package, the weight of the package. So sometimes the shipping can be way higher than it should be, but that happens once in a while. Yes, bobflavin.com is where you can find all of the little stuff that I do right now. We're putting up stickers called OnlyVans stickers today. That'll be out there too. It's the same as the OnlyFans website, but OnlyVans. It comes from my OnlyVans thing I did over the summer, over the winter, which made people laugh. Thank you, Pat Nolan, very kind. Minsk, will the push to electric, what will happen with big rigs which are heavily used in the US with Rangers and added battery weights be an issue? See, the problem is, like, if you even look at the PHEV Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a relatively older car now, it's been around for a few years. That's 3.5 tons, that car. Just standing on the footpath, 3.5 tons. Because batteries are not light. Most electric cars weigh more than 1.5 tons. Even like a Peugeot 208, the small car, that little one, that's a ton and a half, that one. I think, or 1,250 kg. It's heavy and very heavy, which is down to batteries, really. So I think when it comes to the big rig stuff, I know Tesla has been playing around with big rigs, but we still haven't seen one go coast to coast like the Americans like to do, or, you know, pulling a full load behind it across very long range. But charging speed is always the effort, rather than the weight of the batteries, how fast you can put energy back into the batteries. And right here in Junction 14, they're at to put in 2 or 3 fast chargers there that are going to be able to ramp up to 350 kilowatts. Now, I charged one yesterday. It was 65 kilowatts what it charged at. But it could be the car, it could be the battery, it could be conditioning and all that stuff. Tesla still nail the speed of charging. That's what they nail it. They do it so well. You know, the battery starts to condition itself before you even get near the battery charging point. And when you plug it in, it goes straight up to full speed. You can see how many kilometers per second you're being fired into. So it's really good. But when it comes to truck and long range driving, that's the problem where electric cars are. Not so much the long range, more the speed of charging is the problem. How fast you can do it. Even that Mercedes I have, I think, is capped out at 100 kilowatts maximum speed charging. And some of them are less than that. And then at a 22 kilowatt charger, it only charges at 10 or something like that. It's much lower than it should be anyway. Mick Mulcahy's here. Good man, Mick. Sean Murray, good to have you back. Thank you very much. Graham Cullen, good afternoon. Bob, it's nice to have a new Sunday service. Good living with Mazda MX-30 video. MX-30, I still love that car. It's a lovely car, but just having to plug it in so often would annoy me, like on a different level of annoyance. I find it annoying to even plug in cars that have long range in them sometimes. You know, it's kind of like, I forgot to plug it out again. I forgot to plug it in again. It takes a while to get used to it, but the problem with the small batteries, which is only 55.5 kilowatt or something, it's a small little battery, but the problem with the small batteries, or is it 35? I can't remember what it was, but the smaller batteries means you're going to want to charge to 100% every time you plug it in. And that's not good for a battery. Even Apple say that. They don't. I've the iPhone 12 now, and they say the same thing. They go, no, you leave the battery management thing turned on, let it charge up to 80%, let the phone decide. But if you have a very short range car, you're going to charge that to 100% every time you use it, right? So if that's the case, then are you harming the battery? You shortening the lifespan of that battery? And that, for a car that expensive, you're thinking, am I going to have to replace this battery in like 5 or 6 years, or what am I going to, like, that's just, it has to be a concern. It has to be. The price of these cars is quite high, and the price of the stuff around them is quite high as well. Are those lights annoying you in the background? I just realised that they're just actually stuck on rotating colours. If I remember correctly, green was the best colour for, that's not the remote control of this, is it? I can't remember. Oh, it is. That's okay. Now we got blue there. That's good. And this chair, I'll go blue on that as well for the crack. Right, that'll stop all that rotating colours. Don't want anybody falling over, in the middle of this. Michael Mackay is here as well. Thank you. Good to have you back. Sean Murray, thank you. Graham Cullen, good afternoon, Bob. It's nice to have the new sun. Oh, yes. Raymond Grace. Hi, Bob. Electric car sales ahead of target. Battery powered lawnmowers and hedge cutters are now on sale. All good for the environment. It's all good for the, well, let's just say it's not necessarily good for the environment, but it's certainly good for air quality, which is where obviously electric cars would lead the pack because they don't emit anything. There's nothing, when they're driving along, there's nothing coming out of the back of them. That's great. Whether it's actually good for the environment or not is another argument entirely, because essentially to the environment the cars are the same other than the air quality. There's no real difference in the two, but things have certainly gotten quieter. I'll say that for a start. I've noticed that myself when you're driving around, particularly at EQA. I can hear people talking on the street and stuff. When you're driving along the road and you're in traffic, you can hear someone walking towards you talking on the phone. You hear the conversation because it's so quiet in the car. Plus I'm starting to see a good few more cars. I think there's probably 3 or 4 Model 3 Teslas around the town, a couple of Model S's here in Portlaoise. I've also seen the ID3 and ID4 become very popular. I'm imagining Skoda Enyaq is going to come in and rule, because it is actually my favourite one. Looks wise, I think it's the favourite one in the group. And now Audi have put out their, what do they call it? The Q4 e-tron is also out as well. And Mercedes now have 2 EQ cars. We're waiting for BMW to do their thing with the 4 Series, which would be interesting, I suppose, if that's where they're going to start. I think it's a funny place to start, though, right? Because like SUVs are the way what everybody kind of wants. But and then we have Model Y coming from Tesla later on the year. So there's a lot going on. And on top of that, at the other end of the range, you've also got Peugeot doing their thing. Opel is doing their thing as well. Citroen's about to jump in on top of that too. Peugeot's already got some electrics and hybrids and PHEVs. So there's a lot going on in the electric car market. There's a shortage of chips worldwide. There's also a shortage of batteries. So we have those 2 factors that are slowing down deliveries on basically everything. Even ICE engine cars are slowed down at the moment. Adrian Manelli, thank you very much for welcoming back. Thank you very much. Thomas Clark, Bob, have the option to buy a Cupra Ateca. Am I mad? No, great car. Cupra Ateca is a great car. Yeah. Performance cars or semi-performance cars or GTI cars aren't really going to do a whole lot different. The sales were always relatively small in those cars anyway, and bought by enthusiasts. And I don't think those sales are going to go away anytime soon. I think we will see Cupras, and they'll start to go hybrids or PHEV, because you can actually get more horsepower. If you look at the 330e, the BMW car, which is a PHEV one, Ronan, who does be on the channel here sometimes, I reviewed his car and he's now got 450 horsepower of that car. So if you're in that realm for a standard PHEV car, why wouldn't you continue that route? It's a brilliant idea, which means you get your performance, you get your weight balance, weight distribution's good, you get all that sort of stuff, but at the same time you're going to get a car that's in tax band A and has cheap toll booths, and you can plug it in the street. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of side benefits to having the old PHEV, although the grant is disappearing. Well, it's halving this month anyway. Kieran M, thoughts on a 1.6 TDI Jetta Mark V first car? The first car thing goes up a lot. That's nothing particularly wrong with that car. The 1.6 TDI is actually pretty reliable. It does have some problems because it's a Jetta and because young people buy them anyway, and it's a Mark V, so it's a few years old. So you're probably buying it from an enthusiast who will have driven that maybe pretty hard. You're probably going to need to watch your timing belt on it. Or change it anyway to begin with, and get the bits done around the edge. But the car itself is okay. Jet is fairly reliable. Looks good when they're modified as well. If you want to do a few modifications on them, we're not going to do any harm. Mark Turner Smith, come on, Mark, good to have you back. Niall McHugh, how are you, Bob? Saw a C8 Corvette in Nace yesterday. The thing was jaw dropping. Did you send me that picture on Instagram? Somebody sent me a picture of that car on Instagram yesterday, I think. It looks deadly, doesn't it? But then look, C8 Corvette. I've seen a few American cars, weirdly. There is a bit of a healthy market of importing American cars from Mexico. I met a man at Coins Cross car meet, and he had a Ford F-150, the real one, the actual one, like last year's model of it, the full bore version of it. It's enormous. It's such a big car, but he brought it in from Mexico and paid the VRT. It's got an Irish license plate on it. So this seems to be a recurrent thing now. People just kind of look outside the standard sort of European cars that are out there, or Japanese cars for that matter. Bit of a go on Japanese cars lately as well. Jap imports used to be the big thing of the 80s. They were everywhere. White cars, wall-to-wall white cars came in from Japan in the 80s. Then it dropped off a cliff as people found stuff at home more interesting to get. And European car market came back. But now people are looking at Japan again because they drive the same side of the road as us. So they've got the steering wheel on the same side of the car. So the cars, other than everything being Japanese on a car, which can be a problem if you're buying something like a Prius, because all of the information on the dashboard will be in Japanese. So it'll have kilometers per hour, but that's the only that'll make any sense on it. I've seen the Japanese import ones. You can't even reprogram them. You cannot get rid of the Japanese writing on everything. So you can kind of stab in the dark and hope you turn on the air conditioning. Mr. Craig Buckley. Best cheap, second-hand, reliable, automatic run-around car, Micra, Yaris, etc. The automatic is going to kill you there, right? If you want an auto car and you want to do less than €5,000, automatics are always more expensive and are much rarer in smaller cars. Yaris isn't too bad, I would say. The Micra automatic gearbox is terrible. I'd stay away from that. It just doesn't drive very well. The gear shift is very hard. Yaris does a fairly good job. If you can get a Yaris hybrid, which I doubt you will for under $5,000, you'd be very lucky to get it. A couple of Suzuki ones out there, but you won't get them in automatic. I don't think they even did them in automatic. So it's going to be difficult to find the automatic version of it. But I'm sure someone in the chat will give you a recommendation. IFD Hand, right? Welcome back, Bob. Thanks. Note the Skoda Enyaq and the Q4 reviews. Did you mention there will be changes to EV grants in the budget? Well, yeah. Look, I'm hearing a lot of. The problem is, Mr. Eamon Ryan hasn't got a plan. It's not that there isn't a plan. There is a sort of a plan, but no one quite knows how long-term the plan is. So what do you do in a budget, right? You know that everybody needs money now this time because there's a housing crisis, there's COVID lockdown ending, there's all that stuff happening, or possibly not ending. And at the same time, there's taxes to collect, there's things to do, and they're giving money away for electric cars. So will they or won't they continue granting money? Because they've already changed the PHEV grant. They've halved that from 5 to 2.5. So what are they going to do with electric cars? Are they going to properly support them in the future? Will they properly invest in the infrastructure attached to it? Will we properly get updates to that infrastructure? Because ESB, in fairness, did the best they could possibly do with the infrastructure given the money they had at the time. And we got the best infrastructure in Europe we had at one point. We were ahead of the posse by quite some distance. Now we are so far behind, we have tons to make up. And it's starting to happen, but it's only in small pockets. And we're still very confused of what you can and can't do and where you have to charge. I can see it on the Facebook pages. I can see people asking the blatantly obvious question of where can I charge? How much does it cost? I charged yesterday in Junction 14 and I used the fob that Mercedes gave me, which means Mercedes pays the bill for that fuel. But I don't know how much that is. I don't know how much that. It doesn't come up on the screen around. It doesn't tell you how much you're paying for the fuel. Just plug it in. It fills you up. You unplug and you drive off. You don't know how much that's going to be. So there's so many things that need to be put into place urgently. If people take their blinkers off and just look at it, how it's working at the moment, because it's not working for new entrants. If you're coming from a standard petrol or diesel car, you're dropped into an electric car and you don't get a good rundown from the dealerships, you haven't a clue. I've had people contact me over the last couple of months who have bought an electric car and now they're trying to find out how to get a home charger unit. They've bought it. It's at home. It's out of power. They've been using public charge points. They're paying top dollar for that. Like if you charge at a fast charge point often enough, you're probably going to pay the price you pay for diesel. You're very close to it. So there's lots to be done with right now within the system that needs to be addressed by the government, which literally is not. It's just being completely ignored. And that's realistically, nobody seems to want to deal with it. I find our current Minister for Transport seems to be, in my opinion, out of his depth in the transport sector. We need somebody very strong in the transport sector, and we just don't have that available to us at the moment, particularly from Minister Ryan, who would be from the Green Party. And I understand maybe his green credentials are very good, but his transport credentials wouldn't be where it should be. I don't think. Anyway, sorry. Frank Metcalf says King Bob is back. Thanks, Frank. Nothing like it. Don't forget to share the live, please. It'd be brilliant to get the viewership up so we get more questions in, get more stuff, more discussion happening. It's always nice. I'm sure you've stored up your discussions for the last couple of months to catch up on the thing. The Macam Torpedo. Watch the recent Lada Niva review on Johnny's Late Break Show. Available in the UK starting at 12 grand. Do you think there'd be a market for them should anyone decide to bring them over to Ireland? I think the UK suffers a broader level of cars than we do here. I don't know why exactly. Lada, of course, would have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths in Ireland over the years, because what was left here from Lada is now piles of rust. That's essentially what happened to Lada when it was here the first time. The Lada Riva and the Lada, whatever the other one was called, they were all fairly junky stainless steel yokes that were badly put together, you know. They were cheap though. So here we go again with another cheap car, and it'd be kind of good to see it come out. And Lada do actually make nice cars now. If you go to the Lada website, I think it's lada.ru or something, they actually make cars that aren't that bad to look at. I haven't driven one of the new ones. But I do think there's a position here, if you look at how well Dacia has done over the last few years. And particularly I was in the Sandero Stepway the other day, which has an LPG connector in it now, and has all of the kit and caboodle I would have expected in any of the Korean or Japanese cars, and it feels as good as any one of them. It's a grand car. For a Dacia, I was genuinely surprised. So I think Lada can do that same thing here again and offers another incentive. Now 12 grand probably isn't going to happen, but you know, the cheapest Sandero you can buy right now, I think it's €13,000, but that hasn't even got an infotainment system. So whether you could do that here again with Lada, I'm not sure. Whether people look how hard Fiat were hit. We have long memories here when it comes to that kind of system, that kind of problems that came with the cars. Like the chances of Fiat ever recovering from it, or the chances of Lada getting back into the country and going, well, we have to take Lada seriously now. Like, do you? Can you? Would you? William Bellingham, good to see you back as well, sir. Mr. Craig Buckley, on a small battery EV's first generation Leaf, 24 kilowatts, showing this not reality for most, also 8-year battery warranty. The smallest of the small Leaf, I remember when that came out, was the beginning of my channel. The first video I ever made on this channel was of the Nissan Leaf. It was the launch, well, not the launch, the first woman purchaser, I think, in Ireland was collecting it from the docks, and I made a video while I was there. But when we first got it as a press car to drive it home, I couldn't make it all the way from Sandyford to Portlaoise. I had to stop in Junction 14, which thankfully at that time had actually got a charge point, and I was able to charge up a little bit to go on a bit further, but I found myself charging it all the time while I had it. It's not a bad car, never was. Nissan Leaf has always been a forerunner, but I just think it was sort of ahead of its time, and the battery technology has they've never committed properly, Nissan. They had problems with generation 2, didn't put active cooling into it, which meant you could only fast charge it once in a day. That doesn't suit everybody. And they seem to have that same problem still with the active cooling. So a 24 kilowatt Nissan Leaf, if you were lucky, you could get 110 kilometers out of that when it was new. I would say if you could get 80 or 90 kilometers out of it now, you'd be doing pretty well. And so you're just going to spend all your time charging it everywhere you go, unless you just do like I do here. Our car does 6,000 kilometers a year, the Leon. So you could drive up around the town here, do very small mileage in it for a Nissan Leaf, but would you buy one? Because they're fairly expensive as well. Scroll back up there a bit. I shot forward. Hold on, that's the first shoot forward. I still haven't solved that problem. You know, it's funny when you scroll to the bottom, it goes, and you just get brought to the beginning of everything. Robert McNulty says, I have my appointment to get my provisional Wednesday morning, Bob. How long after I'll be able to start driving? Well, you have to have your physical license. So to drive on a provisional license, you have to have the actual physical card, which comes from the NDLS. Doesn't take long though. You should get them in a few days. So you've passed your theory test, you've applied for your provisional license, you still have to wait for that provisional license to come. So once you have that in your hand, you're golden. Away you go. Obviously, with a fully licensed driver sitting beside you at all times, you have to have them there due to the Clancy agreement. An agreement that does definitely not suit everybody. I spoke with a young man who lives out in Mayo. He's been doing his best to get his 12 lessons. He can't get any practice. His mother doesn't drive. His father's passed away. There's no one else in the family that drives. He lives in the back end of nowhere, and so who does he get to sit beside him as a fully licensed driver? It's just It's not working. I don't think the Clancy Agreement works for a lot of people. I think it's a blunt instrument. I understand why it's there. I just don't think it's working. It can't be used in the way it's being used right now. It's now a big punishment thing. It's very, very difficult for young people to get someone. Can you imagine? I'm sure dads, moms out there will agree with me pretty quick. Sitting beside your young one for 2 hours in the passenger seat while they drive around in your car is not something you necessarily relish doing, right? You could be doing lots of other things other than sitting there waiting for them not to crash. So, I think the Clancy Agreement forbids them from driving alone, or for driving without a fully licensed driver sitting beside them. But it just does not work for everybody. And that's our biggest problem at the moment. Where was it? Robert McNulty is there was a 211 i8 where I work at a wedding yesterday. Really? They're still selling i8s? Oh, 2011. Oh no, 211. That's right, Jenna. I wouldn't have thought they were still selling i8s. How would you solve the VRT problem? Well, what you have to do is lower it in stages. The reason vehicle registration tax is something everybody pays when you buy a car. So when you buy either new or used or whatever it is, you're actually paying that tax every single time. So the price of the car reflects the tax in it to begin with. So our prices here are so vastly different than anywhere else in Europe. We are the third most expensive place to buy a car in Europe. That'll tell you where we are. And we're behind 2 countries that have some of the lowest tax rates in the country in Europe as well. So we have a high tax rate as well as being very expensive to buy cars too. So you got all these factors that are happening around the edge, and then VRT is in the middle of it. VRT can be absolutely phenomenal on every car. Sometimes it's quite low, sometimes it's quite high. But the problem is it's a mystery instrument. We are the only ones who pay it. The end users are the only ones who pay it. Dealerships do pay it, but they get you to pay it, then they pay it. And so there's a currency after starting up with VRT. VRT should go into a bank account, gets paid out at the end of the month to the VRT office for a dealership. Obviously that money can be invested, it can be used, you can buy stock out of that even if you want to. So there's all kinds of things can happen to VRT. Now, to get rid of it, to actually get that VRT to go away, what you need to do is bring it down in stages, because if you delete it tomorrow, you would close every dealership in the country like that overnight. Gone. They'd just be finished, because you would devalue all of their stock by the rate of VRT, which would be millions of euro could be wiped out of their stock in a blink of an eye. But you could do it over a number of months. You could do it over even a couple of years. You could start to bring down the rate of VRT, which would bring our cars back into line with the prices in Europe. Because right now, the price of a standard car in Spain versus the price of a car here in Ireland is nearly double. Look at the price list. Go off and have a look at SEAT.es, which I think is the Spanish version of it. Look at the price there. Look at the price of it in Ireland. There's a vast difference for something that's built in Europe and shipped within Europe and comes out in Europe, but the price is just massively different. Every country has some sort of VRT. Most countries have some sort of VRT, but most of them don't charge anywhere near the level. The cheapest place, tax-wise, to buy a car in Europe is Poland. And they're not even really fully in Europe. You know, they still use their, is it called zloty? I think it's the name of the currency there. They still use their own currency. So, but it is, if you look at tax rates, their cheapest is the cheapest by far, which is why they have probably the highest rates of purchasing of new cars on the road. Such a very important market to car companies. They tend to talk about it a lot. Garrett Talbot, afternoon all, welcome back Bob. Thank you Bob. EV batteries, lithium versus NiCad, the latter full chemicals, very expensive to recycle but should last 20 years. Reckon this will be an issue for future. It's definitely recycling is the biggest issue. Getting rid of the problem is the biggest issue we have right now, and that is the scariest part, is how far away we can push the bucket down the road. Do you know what I mean? So if you're saying we're going to create all these brand new cars now, and then you got to get rid of them at some point, you need to have all the recycling things in place. So we have all the recycling things in place for standard ICE engine cars. We know to drain out all the fluids, and the battery the engine gets broken up, and the battery itself goes off to be recycled. It's mostly plastic in those batteries, just 12 volt batteries. Electric cars contain a 12 volt and a lithium ion or NiCad or solid state or whatever one you want to call it, and they all have various levels of lifespan. For instance, that's a brand new iPhone. That one there has 100% battery. That is an ancient old iPhone 6 that I use to do monitoring stuff. I have the two of them running. The iPhone 6 battery is rubbish. In fairness to it, it was never very good in the first place, but it just goes dead much faster than the big battery in that one. So that's great, but this will eventually go that route as well. Eventually that phone will start, that weighs a ton by the way, that phone will start to lose its battery. Now those batteries have to be recycled. The same applies to electric cars that have to be recycled. It is, I think we're pushing a little problem further away. There will be certain countries in the world that can deal with recycling the batteries at the moment. Ireland has invested duck egg in recycling of these batteries or anything to do with it. We really have done none of this. If you look at the Isle of Skye or any of those northern Scotland islands, they're doing great work on their stuff up there. Not just recycling on their battery technology, on solar panels, wind farms. Look at the stuff they're up to up there, and we're doing nothing in this country other than putting in some wind farms here and there, and they all get opposed, every one of them. We live on a tiny island. We got to get energy from somewhere, but I don't know what we're going to do with the cars here. As like an old Nissan Leaf, a 10-year-old Nissan Leaf now has probably a battery and it wouldn't be sellable. Nobody wants it. So what do you do with it? You have to drop out the battery, put in a new battery, or are you just going to crush the car and leave it at that? Who knows? Because electric cars are essentially just the same as ordinary petrol and diesel cars, apart from the motor and the batteries. Everything else is more or less the same. Ben Moore says, what we need to go back to is Opel Corsas held together by welding. We could. Cut and shuts. They had a lot going for the boys. A lot going for them. Back before the NCT days. Think about before the NCT days. How many cars were just in bits all the time with holes in the bodywork. You put your fist in some of them holes. I remember my brother had a Hillman Avenger. And you can see the road through the floor. And that is not an exaggeration. I was only a child, but I still remember it. I was a young kid, maybe 7 or 8, sitting in that car. And I could see the road through the floor of the car. And that was normal enough in most of those cars. My brother had Renault 18, Renault 19 as well. Same problem. In the back seat, the breeze up through the floor in the back seat. No one could sit in the back seat because the back seats were wet from the road spray coming out. It was just... Look, that was the 80s, right? The 80s. I survived it. I lived through it and I'm fine. I got out the other end of it. I'm still alive and I've most of my body parts still attached. So I made it through. But if all the cars were bad now, then you'd be in right trouble. There'd be just so many problems that you'd have right now on the road. It'd be absolutely crazy to think that we'd have to go through it all again. But at the same time, the NCT is a bit of a rip-off though, right? I mean, seriously, like the stuff that they're searching for now. Like they want to do your ECU now. So they're going to put an OBD2 reader onto your car. It's only a fail advisory if you fail, but it's still another thing that you have to try and get through on your NCT. So they really want your older car off the road. Liam Cotter says, a Merc auto revving while changing gears. Sounds like a throttle body position thing would be the one I would look at straight away, which means that the electronic, I don't know what year Merc was, but the electronic accelerator pedal doesn't know where the physical pedal is, so it thinks you're revving the pedal. It's just one thing. You also have overruns, so too much fuel going into the cylinder while you're changing gears, so it's actually pouring fuel in, so it's revving the engine up. That'd be kind of the two things, but it would depend on the year of the car. If it's an older one, it's easier to diagnose, believe it or not, than a newer one just connected up to an OBD2 reader and see what the error is. Ted Two Stout, welcome back, Bob. Thanks. Sunday afternoons are not the same without your action show. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Don't forget to share the live, follow the host, send some money by PayPal if you want as well. Patreon is there too. You can sign up to channel memberships. You can go over to bobflavin.com. You can buy these kind of things. These will be on it from next week. We'll have the t-shirts up. Able to order them. They're coming into stock. We've ordered them already. It just says Irish car scene, by the way, underneath there. It's just olive green, nothing else with notice. Nice, plain, straightforward working t-shirt. They're called Gildan t-shirts, so they're really good, heavy duty. They hang well, they wash well. You have to wash them inside out, mind you. There's also hoodies, which are out of stock currently. I'm sold out. We have stickers and things there. There's some hats. There's some snoods left and running snoods and stuff. There's a few bits there, right? David G. Greetings from sunny North Wales. You're lucky. Across the water. Don't mention Brexit. Yes, as it is. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Renault Arcana? Guaranteed a massive hit. Initially made in South Korea. It is. I've booked one in, I think. I got an email to book it in. I don't think I booked it in yet. But it looks interesting. I like what Renault are doing. It's hard to see where they're going. Renault, for me, have been a kind of... They've hit the nail sometimes, then suddenly it's like boom, they just go off the rails. The Arcana looks interesting. Weird name. It's hard to describe. Like, I always look at a name and think it needs to sum up what the car is. So you either name it and then you show us a picture of it so we all know what you're talking about. But the problem is most people don't know what an Arcana is when they see it. So it's going to be a good hit, I think. But I think we're coming to the end of the SUV range. And what I mean by that is we've had a flood of small SUVs, you know, everything from little 5-door hatchbacks up to huge yokes that are on the road. Now we have so many of them, it's hard to distinguish which one's which. So I think we're coming to the end. I think people are starting to see the value in 5-door hatchback again. In standard estates, I think that's going to happen as well. And yeah, there is good value around those sort of cars. So whether Arcana is going to be a little bit late to the market will be the problem, more than whether it's a good car or not. JP Devlin, with all this new electric car chat, I just bought an 06 Superb with 270,000 miles for 500 quid and it's grand. My car is a 2006 Seat Leon 1.6 petrol, and I just put a shed load of cash into making it right for the NCT, and it is right now. I mean, it's right. It is as good as it's ever been. Went down to Dalton's here in Laois, and we got the tyres then at Fitzpatrick's yesterday as well here in Portlaoise, and it's been lovely. They're cheap tyres, which is grand. I'm okay with that because we already spent so much money on the car in the first place. But it's what could you get? The used car market is so high now. I'd have to spend a fortune trying to get something good. So where would you go from a car that owes me nothing? It's been mine since 2006, brand new, still own it. I know the car inside and out. I know what's been done to it, I know how it's been treated, I know how it's been driven. So it's very hard to suggest that you change over to something else that you don't know anything about. So you could only, what would you going to spend? 5 grand, 6 grand on a new car? What would you get for that? Not much these days. We might have a look at Dundee in a minute and see what you can actually get for about 5 grand. Liam Cotter says, what's up? Thanks, Liam Cotter. Ted Too Stout, welcome back, thanks. Sunday afternoons not saving much direction. Oh, sorry, I read that already. Good on, but David McCarthy, but won't stay grand to be ever increasing ICE repair costs. Well, there is electric car repair costs, but like electric cars aren't innocent in their repair costs. They still have all of the wet moving parts that petrol cars have, like brake discs, brake pads, brake fluid, a 12-volt battery, shock absorbers, brake discs, but you know what I'm talking about. It's got all the same stuff as a petrol car has. The only thing that would be lacking now, of course, would be timing belt, water pump. Oh, there is a water pump in them somewhere, though, isn't it? It has to pump things. Anyway, there's things that are slightly missing from it, but for the most part, they're nearly the same. Now, a service, as we analysed last year, some services cost as much as a petrol car. Other ones don't cost that much. It just depends on the brand. Tesla don't seem to bother with servicing at all by the looks of things, or very little of it anyway. Whereas ones like Volkswagen and even Skoda have built in a price of service costs, like 3 grand delivery and service costs into their Enyaq. So it's already kind of built into the price of the car. So it's hard to see where they're going to make that work, because there's a lot of car companies out there who have a lot of dealerships who live and die on the service department. If they go away with all electric cars, you could have a problem with that. But in fairness, David, when you say ever increasing price, so over the years, because I've had my car since new, the price has never really changed on the servicing parts. Once every few years we change the brake pads. We've never changed the brake discs, I don't think. Not as far as I remember. We changed the shock absorber on one side, changed the spring this side this year. They're all bits of being electric cars though. What else have we done? We did the timing belt and the water pump, because that just has to be done anyway every once in a while. So that's the second time it's got one. And that's it. Over its life, 17 years. That's pretty much it. That was the biggest service it's ever had, but that's because it was lying up for ages. Dave McCarthy said that. JP Devon says correct, but it was 500 quid. My comment wasn't taking down electric car. Oh yeah, I know that. It was only 500 quid to change cars. I know. You can get some good little bargains out there. There is some. Very few, but there is some. If you know what you're about and you can repair cars, I think you'll get away with some cheaper yokes at the moment. Mr. Craig Buckley heard stories of EV buyers who, after getting a car, found out their home electricity system was not capable of having a 7 kilowatt charger without huge electricity retrofit. Needs to be highlighted. This is true. I do work with Des Mulhare Electrical every once in a while, and he tells me some of the nightmare stories. And I get those emails. I get people who've bought cars. They've already bought the electric car, and then they're finding out that they need to get a charge point. They need to get that. It's not going to be cheap to charge on the street. That isn't cheap. Even if you have a good solid like 7.5 kilowatt charger drove from your house and you're paying for it, you're definitely going to be paying more at that than you will at home. If you're going to use a fast charger all the time, those things are 75, 76, 78 cents per kilowatt. Could be costing you 25 or 30 euro to fill up your car. electrical. Would you think, oh, it's only 75 cents a kilowatt. It's not, it's a bit more than that. When it actually adds up, you get 500 kilometer range, maybe 30 quid, which isn't much. So there's a lot of ins and outs when it comes to how much these cars actually are costing people. You should really educate yourself when it comes to the price of these actual cars, how much you're spending on them. You should really understand the difference between litres per 100 kilometres and kilowatts per 100 kilometres, and all these different things that come up, because you won't notice until you have the car at home. Because if you listen to the people who love them, they just say, no, go buy them, they're cheap, they're fine, they run easy. It's only when you come across the problems that suddenly you realise that you possibly shouldn't have bought in so quickly. I would still wait another 12 months. There's still so many new cars being launched daily. The price of them are starting to drip down a bit as well. But I have noticed some of the options are starting to disappear out of electric cars. I've noticed active cruise control disappearing. I noticed the Audi e-tron GT hadn't got a reversing camera. It's 106,000 euros worth of a car, no reversing camera. I noticed the Q4 the other day I was driving had no reversing camera. I noticed that Audi or the Mercedes EQA outside the door doesn't have active cruise control, just has normal cruise control, and the lane keeping is this weird sort of braking thing that just goes and stops you drifting out of the lane. So what they're doing is getting rid of the options to make the cars seem cheaper than they started out with, which is kind of scary, because some of the options that's missing are the really convenient things. The really convenient things like active cruise control, really convenient. Graham Cullen says, car weights. Sorry you mentioned this at the start. Electric vehicles heavy due to batteries. My UK license only let me drive 3.5 tons. Hope EVs don't get heavy. Can't be sitting another test. That's true, Graham Cullen. And in Ireland, we've already changed the licensing system. If you're driving an electric car, they will allow you to drive up to 7.5 tons. If it's an what they call alternatively powered car. That's to cover trailers, essentially. So because you can put 1,500 kgs on the back of an ID4. I think it's 1,500, 1,300, 1,500, something like that, which would make the whole thing combined nearly 5 tons. So it'll be well over anyone's 3.5 ton limit on their B license. But if it's an electric car, they count it differently without a test. Don't ask me how they came to that conclusion. They just went, yeah, we just changed the rule. We won't actually just tell anyone. We'll just do it. It's fine. It'll be okay in the end. In that typical sort of Irish way, just go, sure, it'll be grand. Bender Balson says, I think the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and its 800 volt system be a tipping point for EVs. It will take the charging factor out of the equation. Charging is the problem is, I think a lot of journalists at the beginning, I never did this, but at the beginning started doing range tests. Was the first thing people did was how far can the car go on a test? And that's because that came from the car companies. So car companies would lead with the range of our car is 120 kilometers, is 200 kilometers. So it's the headline figure that they put out. And that put people into mind as how far, but they never question how far a petrol engine could go on the same thing. Like a petrol engine do about 500 or 600 kilometers. That's kind of it. Most petrol cars won't go much further than that. It's only the odd one here and there that'll go a bit further, like the old lean burns and stuff. So we never really measured the petrol cars at that, but we keep measuring electric cars at that. Now, if you have less charging, more range, that's good. If you could charge faster, that's good, right? If you could go to a charge point empty and charge up in 10 minutes, because that's basically how long it takes you to put petrol in the tank of a car. If you think of going to the counter to pay for it, queuing up, if you're buying a coffee or you're buying a drink or something like that, doing all that stuff, 10 to 15, even 20 minutes in the shop is what you're talking about. If you could do that at charge point, we're there now. We're just there, but it's too expensive. That's the problem with that. If you go over to Junction 14 right now, you could be paying 75 cents per kilowatt hour, which means your car's costing you 20, 30 quid to do 500 kilometers. And again, that's just too high. I'm sorry, if you're doing that regularly, it's going to work out too expensive. Hyundai and Kia are doing really good things with their battery technology, with the way they charge them and how to discharge them and stuff. That's good. But I wish everyone would look at Tesla, at their efficiencies, and I have to compliment, even though some of their cars are built terribly, the range are like it's amazing getting into a Tesla and just go, I want to go over there. And you don't even look at this. You don't look at the range. It never occurs to you until the thing says you got to go to a charge point. And then you go to supercharger, you plug it in, and 10 minutes later, you're on the road again. And you're fine. They just nailed that very well. JP Devils says the upcoming A6 e-tron looks great. I'm looking forward to more saloons and hatches coming out as electric cars. They need them. this SUV thing and hiding the batteries in a green big tray under the bonnet. That's the problem. The more modern stuff that's coming out right now has lost that kind of bulk underneath weight, and it's very hard to explain. If you've never driven an electric car, when you're going over a speed bump, when you're coming off the speed bump, you get seasick in some of those cars. The MG would be one of those. Renault Zoe does it as well. So you're coming down, you get that kind of bounce on the back of it because it's just so much weight under the car that comes down on the bottom of it. Whereas I don't find that in ID4, ID3, in the EQA, in the Skoda Enyaq. I just don't find it. They must have obviously taken that on board and started to refine their suspension system to cope with it. So if we get around to like A6 Avant in electric form, I think it's going to be really, really good. As Eric Rochford says, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you very much. And share the live and put it out and wherever you want to go. I'm actually going to do that myself. You know, I can actually share the live as well because it's currently live. And I never did anything on Twitter about it being live right now. So I will. Live right now. While you're all there. See, you get to see all these things live while I'm doing it. This is me all day long doing stuff like this. This is my life. People wonder how you have much time. I just sit in front of a computer all day long. Hobbs Dorothy says, you retracted the message just now. Right, okay. Mr. Craig Buckley says, on a 10-year-old Leafs, use the battery for housing market and put in the 30 kilowatt hour or 40 kilowatt hour pack in the car and cracked on. Company Kildare already offering this. That's a genius idea. My dream is to get my house in the country and then put a battery pack on the outside and solar panels on the roof and a wind farm out the back and never ever hook up to the ESP ever again. That is my dream. I would love to be off grid. I would really enjoy that. And that's, I don't know why people find that a little bit weird, but I think it's like a complete flip over of society. You know what I mean? It's like, when you're going to build a house, the first thing you have to do is tell the ESP you want to be hooked up. I've heard that argument so often, people going, the ESP won't connect me, I'm too far away, I'm too this and too that. And all I actually want to do is hook it up so there's absolutely nothing connected to me to anything. That's it. I just want to be connected to myself. I know that's probably against the law in this country. I'm sure there's some rules somewhere that you have to hook up to the ESP. But the dream is to be able to be out there in the middle of nowhere and be completely off grid like those guys in America that I keep seeing. The guys who live off in the back end of some woods somewhere, and all they do is get up in the morning and try and figure out what their solar panel is putting out. That's me. I'd love that. I'd enjoy the little gauges filling up and all that stuff. It's cool. But if you can use the 10-year-old Leaf as house batteries, which would be kind of cool. I don't know how much. I'm sure they're still pretty expensive. And then get second-hand Leaf batteries to go into your Leaf to continue them on life. That's brilliant. And I love the idea of upgrading an old car to be a car that's electric as well. I know it's prohibitively expensive, but it should be a lot cheaper than buying a brand new electric car. Keith Grisham says, is that Chrism? Sorry, Keith. Hope all is well, Bob. Waiting on delivery of my 2018 2-litre TDI Passat Estate business spec. Good one, yeah. Hope the Greens don't tax the shite out of diesels in October. Who knows? We have a Green Party as the Minister for Transport. This is the problem we have right now. And they seem hell-bent on trying to get us into 1 million electric cars by 2030. Every single commenter who works within the car industry will tell you that just is impossible to do that. We need another 960,000 electric cars to hit the road between now and 2030 for that to even be close to being a reality. We couldn't build that many of them. It's just not possible. So the idea that you can just tax something till it dies doesn't make any sense because there's no replacement. You can't just replace a 2018 2-litre TDI Passat with an electric car. The price difference is gigantic. And then what do you do? Push people into hybrids? That doesn't work either, according to what the Green Party goes on. Well, they're all self-charging hybrids is a lie, according to, members of the whatever party out there. They'll tell you it's all wrong and it puts out CO2 emissions and it's just as bad as anything else. There's this two levels of stuff going on the whole time. Really, all you can do is make the best choice you can make on the car you want, whether it be electric or PHEV or plug-in hybrids or BEVs or whatever one you want to call it. Whatever you're into, buy the car you think you'll work for the next few years because they're going nowhere. At the moment, cars are going nowhere. They're just going to stay exactly as they are right now. There just is a draw for new electric cars, but I just don't think the supply is there. I don't think I don't even think the demand is there. If I'm really honest, I think there's a lot of curiosity, But actual purchases, material purchases, are much lower than the curiosity level. There's a lot of noise about electric cars, but at the other end of the scale, it's still only a small proportion of the market. It's up, but it's not up anywhere near where people was predicting it was going to be. Ben Moore says, I found a 99 Accord a while back for 200 quid, problem was with no keys. Oh no! 99 Accords, good car actually, Accord. 200 quid, like you could risk it for a biscuit on that, like no matter what was wrong with that, it's gonna owe you nothing, right? Surely like the wheels off it would be worth 200 quid if all went wrong. You could always do that. Mark Turner Smith says, I have that issue now, my old Garmin 520 plus GPS. I have a Garmin as well. Bicycle computer, 6 years old, and don't hold charge much past 3.5 hours and cost new, replace the battery even more than new. I have a Garmin sat nav here, an old one I bought years ago, and it does not run unless it's plugged in now. It used to have a battery in it, and the battery's still in it, but it's not serviceable. I can't get a battery to replace it, and I can't do anything about it, but it is still here. It still works perfectly. If I plug it into the 12-volt socket, it comes on, but when I turn off the car, it turns off as well, and it loses its memory and all that stuff. And it's still a great old machine. It's years old. It's every bit as good as, and even though the maps aren't up to date anymore, it's every bit as good as Google Maps. Apart from the good thing that Google Maps does, Ireland's kind of unique. We're only coming to terms with our air codes. That's our postal addresses with our postcodes attached to it. We're only getting to grips with that. And Google can accept your air code, which is kind of cool. You can just type in your air code, it takes you straight to the front door. It's deadly, but Apple Maps don't do it yet. And we're still only getting to grips with these kind of things, which is kind of interesting to see it coming. But it's the same when you go into Google Maps, you type like local restaurant, or you look for Barry Jimmy's something or a pub down the road, and it will bring you straight there because it has all them indexes. Well, I find that very good with Google Maps. That's that's why I still use Google Maps pretty much everything, because 9 times out of 10 someone doesn't know what their postcode is. I know it off by heart. I'm kind of weird. I know my passport number. I know all my bank account numbers. I'm kind of weird at that, but I couldn't tell you the name of somebody I met last week. Kind of weird, isn't it? All things considered, Rory Healy says, generate your own electricity solar panels. That's exactly what I want to do. What I'd love to do. It's still expensive though. Solar technology has dropped down in price, but it's still quite expensive to ramp it up. And I think some of that's to do with the grant. We have a grant in Ireland on solar panels, and I think the grant actually drives up the price of what you're trying to do. And it's very frustrating for people to know we know what we need to do. It's getting there. It's making the step to the next thing, I think, is the biggest problem. Jesus, 144 is still here. That's really good. 149 is still here. That's really good. I wasn't expecting that in the first week back, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be nobody here. Like the old days. You that have been here since the beginning of it will remember the old days. And I know the familiar names in the chat, like Eric Rochford and all that. You'll remember the old days. There were like 5 or 6 of us sitting here. And we would know what to say for like 2 hours. Just sit here and chat away and talk and do stuff, surf the internet, mess around, wait for people to turn up, think it was mass, which is always good. And I'd bless them and they'd leave. And that was the old days of this. It was good. Dilbert, all things considered, I really think you can't see EV being the future as of now. I think it's going to be I think we are in the most exciting time that we've ever had for the car industry, for the transport industry, and for fuel industry. This is about as exciting as it could possibly be. The biggest other exciting time is from about 1900 to 1914, till the First World War. That was an incredibly exciting time, because that was the time we were changing from horse-drawn carriages into electric vehicles and into petrol engine cars, which is where we transferred one to the other. Because we actually started with electric cars. Electric cars were first. So during that exciting, huge time, Thomas Edison and all the rest of them got together to make cars, and Henry Ford, and everybody's in there. Everybody, Tesla himself as well, was doing stuff with electric and battery power. And now we've come full cycle. We're nearly back where we started again, and now it's massively exciting as to whether we're going to go with that sort of PHEV, because in the background there's a lot of investment got into diesel cars, making them cleaner, and petrol cars, and now you find the Volkswagen Group is also investing in the fuel, in fully synthetic petrol and diesel to replace what's in there, and clean burning, much more clean than it was before. So all that's happening in the background. That's happening on one side, and on the other side you got all these guys doing electric battery technology, range, how it charges, what we can use the battery for when we're finished. And then further over you got guys who are looking at hydrogen, solid state batteries, all these other stuff that's happening in another part as well. So there's this huge sort of It's like a hodgepodge of things being fired into a massive big pot, and somewhere in the middle of all of that there'll be some winners and there'll be some losers. We've already had certain losers like hydrogen, which is kind of getting limp-wristedly invested in, and then it kind of fizzles out because it's just very expensive. But I do think buses and stuff will be there, right? Stuart McHugh is here as well. Great to have you back, Bob. Looking forward to watching this back during the week. Never had time on a Sunday. Looking forward to seeing the content from the car meet. That, well, I hope so. If we can work out a way to actually go live from a car meet, that's going to be good. Because we did it before, but it'd be cool to see. Like, we did a Terra Nure show one year. We did that. We did the EV Owners Association did a thing down at Charge Point. We did that as well. So it's possible, but the problem is the unreliable signal. Here I'm on 500 megabyte Vodafone Wi-Fi, not Wi-Fi, it's actually a direct connection. It's wired and it's very solid, like it puts out full 1080p, and I have good mics and things. It's much harder to do that at outside. It's hard to know. You just turn left and you lose the signal, you know. Mr. Craig Buckley says ESB 50 kilowatt fast charger is 30 cent per kilowatt. Ionity is 80 cent per kilowatt. Whoa. Came across your original Hyundai Ioniq EV review. You've come a long way. I have, yeah. Well, you see, that was done as a tongue-in-cheek, that Ioniq one, because what I was trying to get at, and some people got it, but other people didn't. What I was trying to get at in that is that the charger was not telling me what was wrong. So I want, like, if I plug my iPhone into a Windows PC, which I'm running right here, Windows PC will go, oh, that's an iPhone. What do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to connect up to it so I can get your photographs off it? And you go, yes. And it does whatever it's supposed to do, and magic happens, and pictures appear on my screen. And it knows. And if you do that to a Windows phone into an iPhone, into an Apple device, the Apple device will do the same thing. It'll go, yeah, that's a Windows phone. I don't like it, but I will connect up to it. Whereas if you go to some of the older fast chargers, or even some of the newer ones, you plug something in, and then you have to tell it what to do. Why is that even a thing? I shouldn't have to tell it what to do. It should know. It's the charger. And the car and the charger need to talk to each other. I don't want to be part of that conversation. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I want to plug it in and be done with it. So that was where the Ionity, the original Ioniq EV review came out of, was that part. Since then, obviously, everybody's education up, and the cars have all changed, and the chargers have become more interesting to use. And we've gone with just one kind of, you know, CHAdeMO is disappearing slowly, apart from the Lexus. We won't mention the Lexus thing, but CHAdeMO is slowly disappearing off the charge units, and so we've gone with CCS, and now it's much easier. So that's like going with USB. You know, it's effectively you've gone with one kind of port, and that's it, which is pretty good. But I'd like to see, yeah, I have come a long way, in fairness. Everybody has. Everybody's starting to get a little bit of knowledge, a little bit more knowledge than they had before, which is pretty good. Anthony O'Connell, hi Bob, advice on how good a 2021 Seat Leon 1 litre are economic reliable. Depends how you drive them. The 1 litre little engines that's in some of those cars, is there a 1 litre in the Leon, or is that 1.5? I thought it was a 1.5 in a Leon. Maybe there's 1 litre as well though. Seat Leons are a good car. They're a cheap Golf. That's essentially what you're buying. But they are sort of a standalone product as well. Now, I will give you a warning though, Anthony. The software on the infotainment system is mind-bogglingly complicated and crashes a lot. I will say that first. All the Leons I've had, all the Seats I've had with the infotainment system, it looks like a big Google handheld yoke on top, and if it works it's great, but 9 times out of 10 it freezes, sits there. I've heard it from the other journalists as well, same thing. It's freezing, it sits there, Apple CarPlay doesn't work on it, then suddenly the maps won't work on it, so that can be very frustrating. And I've come to the point of having to turn off the car and turn it back on again, get out, lock the doors, get back in and start that stuff to make the infotainment system work, which is a pain when you're trying to rely on the maps. You know, you're trying to navigate yourself somewhere, so just bear that in mind. But the cars themselves, they're Volkswagen Golfs underneath, so same kind of systems underneath. They're very comfortable to drive as well. Killian Breen, big battery, well-spec'd ID4 or basic big battery Q4 with ACC and reversing camera and paint for a couple of grand more. I would be happier in an ID4. I like ID4. I think it's one of the best electric cars you can buy. Yes, software is an issue. Yes, there is some crashes on it, but I still think it's one of those big, comfy, long-range electric cars, and it's space for everything you've ever wanted to do. My second favourite would be the Skoda, what's it called? the Enyaq, which is the electric version of that ID4 from Skoda. The EQA outside the door is probably my third favourite, but it's actually, if I was going to buy one, going to spend the money on it, I think I might buy that Mercedes. It's lovely, and it has everything, apart from active cruise control, but it has everything in it, and it's just a lovely thing to sit and drive in. And like I said, I drove from Portlaoise to Drogheda and back again last night, and I still have 40 kilometres range. I must charge that car. I forgot to charge last time when I came home. It was late. I just came in and went to bed. That was it, pretty much. It was wrecked. But I would sooner have the big battery, well-spec'd ID4 than have the Q4. It's a brand you're buying into. If you want to buy into the Audi brand, you're going to be buying into it that way. But you need a reversing camera on it. You can't see nothing out that back window. Aaron, hey Bob, now I don't keep up to date with the current electric cars, but is there any car that some sort of solar panel help boost the battery whilst driving? There was a few that came with it, but it was more about keeping the 12-volt charge than the actual big battery charge. You wouldn't get enough solar panels on the roof of a car to actually make much of a difference to the charge inside a car. You might if you lived in Spain, but if you ever been down to Spain, most people park their cars in the shade in Spain. You know, they don't park them in the sun, so very little solar panel activity would happen in a car, simply because your car would cook in the sun in Spain. The parts of Spain is very hot, but you would get enough of a charge from solar panels on the roof of a car to charge a 12 volt, and that has been done multiple times in the past to keep the 12 volt topped up. But how often does the 12 volt battery go dead these days? When you think about it, how often do you see batteries being jumped? Apart from when I called the AA to jump my car, that happened. That's what made all the lights on the dashboard come on. They were around. A lovely guy called Francis came around to the house here and replaced my battery for me. That was the AA. I'm still a member. Aaron, hey Bob. Now that's only a tenner a month. I think the AA is not. It's not expensive. Now I don't keep. Oh, I did one. Mr. Craig Buckley, have you driven the MG Estate EV? I haven't. Do you know that? No NCAP rating on that one car either. But no, I haven't actually driven the MG EV Estate. That is coming. It is in my list of cars to drive. That list is extensive now. It's very long. I think I'm booked out till like October, November this year. It's kind of scary how many cars will come on the market. Refreshes and otherwise, just kind of carry over stuff from last year as well. Things that should have come out that didn't. Remember last year I had a Volkswagen Passat, I think for 3 months or something sitting out there. So I didn't have a single press car during that time. I still managed to make content all the time though. Keep up, everybody. Martin Gillespie. Hi, Bob. I reviewed the Audi A7. A7 I have, yeah. Just a couple of A7s reviews on the channel. Still a lovely car. The one I like the most from that kind of range is the 640D Grand Coupe, which is an A7 in BMW form. And it's a lovely car to drive. A7 is gorgeous. They look well when they're lowered or when they're modified a little bit. So it's worth investing in them, but they're hard enough to find. Hobbs Roddy says DVLC driver vehicle license centre in the UK are a joke. People are waiting for them to sort licenses out. Bus, lorry drivers, etc. are waiting 12 to 18 months and losing jobs while waiting. Ooh, welcome to your brothers. We're in exactly the same thing. The RSA here, the Road Safety Authority is what the first part is called, and the licensing crowd are called, can't remember. But we have a huge waiting list for licenses here. We have a huge waiting list for driving tests, for even theory tests, which are now being done online, and they can't. Invigilators not turning up. I had one girl crying the other night on TikTok saying that she had to wait 5 hours in front of a laptop waiting for someone to turn up and couldn't go out of the screen because then you lose your place in the queue, and it's just this scary. 5 hours later, she passed, but it took 5 hours to do the test. So there is a lot of problems in the system. It seems to me that during lockdown, many people who could have worked on things in an isolated form did not work on that thing. They took the payment and stayed at home. And now that we're coming back to work, they're only starting to work on the thing when we know they should be working on it all along. So we still have this slow grind forward, which is just nice. But we'll get there. We'll get there. A lot of patience required. Irish lockdown has been very, very long. We are now like a year and a half in lockdown of some sort. Now, we're not even calling it level 5 anymore. Now it's, I don't know what level we're at. We're giving up on the level thing. Now we're just opening and closing things all we want. Next month we're supposed to be opening up the pubs full time. And now that looks doubtful. Now we see Micheál Martin going on the television going, I'm not so sure we can open them. Oh, there's me wife now. Look at that. We're back. We're definitely back. We're back, and we have lemon and ginger tea. Would you believe it? She's trying to clean me up. I've put on a bit of puppy fat over the lockdown because it's so hard not to just eat stuff, just go, you know what I mean? It's so hard not to do that these days. So now I did a bit of intermittent fasting, which was interesting. I quite liked it. I did 4 days straight of that, and then one day, Friday, we took it off because we were getting a pizza for dinner, which was lovely. Thank you, Supermax, who sorted out the pizza, which was very good. We had a lovely time over the weekend so far. But when we're looking at the licensing things right now, there's loads of people who have not done the job sitting at home. They've been sitting at home doing nothing. And rightly so. I don't disagree. They should have been. If someone's going to pay you to sit at home and do nothing, well, do nothing then. But really, we got to get the shoulder back to the grindstone now and start moving on. I don't agree with more lockdowns. I don't know what we're doing. I've had my first dose of it. I got Pfizer vaccine. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago now at this stage. It's a while ago. It feels like a long time ago. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. And it was fine. I've had absolutely no reaction whatsoever to the first dose of it. Nothing. I had a sore arm here, like I got a punch in the top of my arm. You'd think someone gave me a dead arm. It just felt like someone had given me, a secondary school, those knuckles coming down the back of your arm. That's what it felt like for a day or two. That disappeared. And I've had no swellings, no nothing out of it. So, but if the vaccine is not the solution, then stop talking about the vaccine. If we can't use the vaccine to open up all the pubs and get everything back to normal, then the vaccine's useless to us. So does it work or does it not work is the question most people have at this stage. You can still get COVID even though you have the vaccine. So what's the point then? Why don't we just forget about it? It seems very, very annoying. Nan McHugh says, the ever innovative thinking of Irish politicians when facing a problem, tax the bollocks of it. You're dead right, Niall. That is the answer for nearly everything that ever happens in Ireland. If you don't understand it, tax it. When you do understand it, tax it properly. That is exactly what they do. They don't understand water, so they want to tax it. They don't understand the need for fuel. They don't understand fuel poverty. I think that's what's going on, really. Most of the politicians out there don't believe that fuel poverty is real, when in actual fact it is. Young people, and I meet them all the time now, especially coming out of TikTok and going to car shows and stuff. You meet them all the time. I'm talking about people in their 20s who maybe have a part-time job or a full-time job if they're lucky. They have a dreary old car, an old Volkswagen Golf. They've done their best to make it exciting, and they put a fiver in the fuel in the tank of it to go up as far as Portlaoise Plaza there and sit in the evening time and talk to one another. That's the best they can do. That's the best they can hope for. They've after spending every single penny they have has gone into the fuel tank of the thing, and we don't understand that is actually a fuel poverty. That we are putting them into older, crappier cars that have really poor NCAP ratings. The car passes an NCT maybe. And we hope that they're going to be safe in it. But we tax them to pieces. Motor tax is the highest pre-2008. Insurance is the highest for young people. We insure them at an awful rate. Fuel is incredibly expensive for most of these cars, and most of them are petrol. The ones that are diesel, well, those ones out there, they exist as well, but the tax on those is absolutely enormous. So that's the Irish politician. We don't care about young people. Let them sort it out. We all had to go through it. Now we're all going to be adults and we're going to earn 250 grand a year and forget about it. That's essentially what's happening right now. Dason says, do you think the Cybertruck will make it to Ireland? No, it's too big. Have you seen the dimensions of the thing? Like, it's wider. Our probably widest thing you can buy in Ireland right now would be something like a Kia Sorrento or maybe a Ford Ranger Raptor. Something like that would be one of the bigger cars. That Cybertruck is wider and longer than both of those. So you're essentially looking at someone who needs to have a truck driving license to drive one. And have you seen it though with your own eyes? Because it's not pretty. Like, that car looks thick. Even in pictures, it looks stupid, I think. That's just my own opinion. Maybe the Teslarati people out there like the idea, but I don't. I think it looks dopey. Anthony O'Connell, hi Bob, advice on how good is a 20, we had a 1.1 litre TSI SE economy. SE, there is a 1 litre TSI. Yeah. Interesting, alright, to look at them. I don't think I've tested that 1 litre one. If that's the same engine that they had in the Skoda Octavia, it's actually kind of peppy. The engine's good. Just don't know how long those little turbos will last, horsing it up the road the whole time. Graham Cullen says EVE versus ICE price difference is huge. UK best-selling car for 10 years, the Fiesta, correct? Yeah. Starts at £16,500. The Honda E starts at £27,000. Whoa! That's incredible. And the Fiesta be a much bigger car than the Honda E. That's incredible difference. £16,500 for a Fiesta versus £27,000 for the Honda E. That is a very high price. I think the Honda E is a cool car. But I think, like most cool things, it stopped being cool after about 3 or 4 weeks. I think if you were driving that every day for 3 or 4 weeks, eventually those screens will become annoying. Just saying, because sometimes you just want a physical button. And what happens when one of those screens break? I know it's a Honda, it probably won't break, but what happens? Like, think about it. Froggle Rock 808 says, what's your top 3 fully electric cars? Right now, that Mercedes EQA, even though it doesn't look brilliant, I don't think on the outside, I don't think it's the best looking of the cars, but I think it's probably the finest. I forgot it was electric. That's what I wanted to do with electric cars all along, was just kind of forget that they're electric. You know, you don't want to be thinking about that all the time. You know, pulling up everywhere going, you know, I don't have an electric car. Some people just want to drive the bloody car to somewhere and that's it. So I think there was a lot of that emphasis on original cars, but these new ones, that's going away. So I think that one is probably number 1 or number 2, and I could interchange that with the Skoda Enyaq, which I drove around here for a few days. That was a gorgeous car drive. Again, you kind of forget it's an electric car. Really comfortable, very, very handsome. Striking car to look at would be my second one. And then you can just choose ID3 or 4, and then probably Tesla Model 3 will be in there as well, in that kind of top 4 or 5 cars that are on the market at the moment. Some of these cars, like the ID3 and 4, you're only picking a car that has different outside. ID3 and 4 and Skoda Enyaq are actually the same underneath. Same battery technology. Same steering racks and brake systems all underneath. They just have a slightly different exterior on them. Let me get a bit of my ginger tea. Would you believe we're on for over an hour already? And it's quiet, but it's over an hour. That's been going well. Anyway, Dylan, hi Bob. Would you say that the 547 named driver is good with FBD? I have the license 2 years, no previous insurance. I'd say that's decent. That's a very good price, Dylan. In fairness, €547 for a named driver is very good. You're not going to do much better, but you know what? It's always worth phoning around again. It's always worth having a little check around. The problem is you're going on as a named driver on a policy, so you're stuck with the policy of the person who actually is the policy holder. So you have to go with FBD. If you're getting your own insurance, you would phone around every other insurance company and ask for a quote on your own. But you should still just check with FBD that you're going to get a no claims bonus for that year. So while you're a named driver, that your no claims bonus is accumulating. Imp Mad Dad, so what happened to using biofuel for cars? Just biofuel went out of fashion. People couldn't be bothered to put in 2 fuel tanks in their cars. Volvo were the ones who were really driving the biofuel thing, and of course when they stopped doing it, there wasn't a whole lot left. You can still buy the Dacia. You can get the natural gas connection to it, or what do you call it, the gas version of it. I drove on the other day. It's perfectly good. I wouldn't call it biofuel, but you know, it's another version of a fuel. But biofuel itself, it wasn't any benefit to the environment or any loss. Essentially the same thing, more or less, as petrol and diesel. And of course, petrol and diesel companies that make that fuel really went, biofuel, forget about it. Sorry, it's fine. Don't forget that most of the people who make petrol and diesel are now making electricity. Just in case you're wondering where all the big money went from Saudi Arabia, it went into the battery making companies. They won't be left out. Robert Mulhall, Bob, IKEA over here in Spain are now selling solar panels. The big problem is storage when going off grid. Oh, wow. That would be good, wouldn't it? See, I got a quote in the house here for solar panels. I got this company, I don't know where he was from, Monaghan or somewhere. They sent us a letter, and I asked them to go down and price it up. The front of my house faces north-ish. North is kind of over that way, and south is kind of this way. So the 2 sides of my roof would have to get solar panels on it, right? Now, there's a drawback with this because you have to get planning permission for solar panels, and they will only allow so many solar panels on the planning permission. So I couldn't get it to get solar panels on both sides of the house, because I'd have to have them on both sides of my roof, because it wouldn't work out. I'd only get morning sun or evening sun if I do it one or the other. So there are things that need to be pushed out of the way, like planning permission for solar panels on your roof. I mean, it's your roof. It's not doing anything else other than being a roof and keeping the house dry, preferably mostly dry. So I don't see why you would need planning permission to put up solar panels on a roof. I understand planning permission in a garden or something. You're putting in solar panels, but that's a different story. But I'd love to see them being sold at a reasonable rate. It's the price of these things, as always, that drives the whole lot up. John Cross is here. Hi, John. Can normal cars come see cars in Junction 14? Yeah, of course, no problem. It's a normal operational day for Junction 14, so come along. Anyone who's just joined, hasn't heard it before, Junction 14 on the 31st of July. I'm hosting a car meet along in conjunction with Republican Motors, myself and Jason McConnon. He's McConnon Dealerships from Monaghan. And Kildare Car Scene are also going to be involved in that as well. Between the whole lot of us, we're going to bring a lot of cars. There's people coming from Scotland and Wales. There's people coming from England as well to come along to the meet. Never meant to be that size, but we started putting it up on TikTok, and I only did one TikTok the other day, and already I think there's going to be over 1,000 cars at it, I would suggest. It looks that way to me anyway. But then you never know what way it's going to turn out. It's in conjunction with Junction 14. The night is going to be supporting Barrestown Camp, which is any donations that are given on the night are going to that. I'll bring some merch along people can buy as well. We'll make a donation to Barrestown as well. There'll be a raffle on the night. I'm trying to organise a few little cool things to do on the night as well, besides doing donuts, which is not allowed. Burnouts, donuts, no thank you. Go to a different car meet. But yes, normal cars can drop on if you want to. Dean Reynolds, do you think a 1.6 Jetta as a bad starter car, Bob? Got quoted 1,500 insurance, thanks. Everybody runs for the Volkswagens. Dean, being honest with you, insurance companies tend to penalise Volkswagen because young people tend to drive Volkswagens. Jetta, Golf, Passat, Bora, whatever one you want to pick, they're all the ones that are picked out by young people that want to drive them. You will get a cheaper quote on a Japanese car, like a Corolla or any of those cars. You'll get cheaper quotes. But when you get 1,500 quid first time insurance, it's not that bad. It's not the worst quote I've ever heard. I would expect you to get closer to 1,200, but Jettas are nailed by insurance company because they don't like young people driving those cars, because you guys drive a lot of those Jettas. Just stay away from IS200s. They are everywhere. Dave McCarthy, in the US we have fast charging on highways but not vacation destinations. I want to go spend a week at, does Europe have that problem too? Yes, it does. We tend to put very fast charging stations on motorways, on cross points. People going north to south will pass through an area to get a fast charge while they're there. I talked to a lovely man the other day, and his name escapes me. He was driving a Tesla Model 3. I met him in Junction 14. Himself and his wife, lovely people. He was telling me all about his adventures in a Tesla Model 3 in the south of Ireland. He was driving around Kerry and Cork, and what he was doing was going to test the destination chargers. So he would drive to the hotel, he'd plug in, go upstairs, go to bed, do his stuff in the hotel. Next morning, get up, the car's fully charged, off he goes, drive around the place, come back to the hotel, fill it up again. And he reckons he drove the whole weekend all around Cork for free, because the destination charges included with your hotel. So so he got free charges every night, which is kind of clever. But we don't do fast chargers in holiday destinations, no, because fast chargers are really expensive to install. You're talking between 16 and 20,000 euro per unit. They can be really, really expensive. And then you lose that space. Like I seen this morning on the Irish EV Owners Association publishing pictures of a van parked in an electric car charging point. And I know it's a pain in the ass. I get it. But, I think you need to stop putting pictures of people like that. I think you need to approach the driver and go, why are you parked there? Much better than publish them anonymously online. But we still have a problem with fast charging here as well, in that they take up a huge amount of space. And not everybody wants to fast charge, because it's really expensive to fast charge here. Anthony O'Connell says, I have a 2019 Nissan Pulsar. It would be a great, would the Seat be an upgrade? Yes, it would, Jeff. Nissan, yeah, from a Nissan Pulsar. Fairly basic cars, Nissan Pulsar. But don't forget what I said about the Seat infotainment system. The Nissan is going to be more reliable infotainment, for sure. Anthony O'Connell said that. Mo Beats. Haven't seen you in a while. Hey Bob, hope you're well. Alternatives to the new Kia Sorrento, alternatives to the Kia Sorrento PHEV, there isn't one. Amazingly, Kia have stole the entire market of PHEV with the size of that car. There's nothing much else that's come on the market that's even close to the way it drives, the way it feels, the way it handles, the kit in it. It's really well spec'd. I wouldn't advise another car at that size in PHEV from anybody. The only thing you can look at after that is the X5. You'd have to go up into BMW level to get their PHEVs, which are good, but very expensive. Dilbert says, we got absolutely shafted this week on VRT. Everybody does every week. For a Japanese Silva at €18,500. The same car 2 months ago was 8,000. It's an absolute disgrace and a scam. Now, Dilbert, you can appeal that, just so you know. If you go on, you can appeal that through the VRT system on the revenue website. If you can give them 3 examples of that car's value in Ireland being from done deal, and send it on to them, you can appeal it and get a refund. I met a man the other day who did it. He got a refund of €10,000 back because he's able to prove the car value was not correct when they were looking at it. So, just so you know. But then Silvas are not cheap in this country, so maybe that's killing it too. Mohammed Hussein says, what do you think of the Tiguan 1.5 DSR or DSG R-Line? Good car that, actually, yeah. The 1.5 suffered from what's called kangarooing. Make sure that has been solved, because it's when you're taking off from a junction, it does this, and it feels weird in the car first. Happened to me in a couple of press cars. They say they've fixed it. I don't know how well they fixed it though. That's the problem there. Don't know whether it's actually properly fixed out or they've done something else to it along the way. So make sure that's not done. But the cars, so Tiguan's are great cars. Yeah, no problem with Tiguan. Anthony O'Connell, any advice on another make would be better than Skoda Scala? Scalas are actually alright. I know it came under fierce scrutiny here in Ireland. People didn't like it. Most journalists going, no, I don't know why you have Scala. I kind of like Scala. I thought it was a good little car. Just a standard little 5-door hatchback. You get them with the small engines in them as well. So they were nice to drive. But would be better, better than a Skoda Scala? What else would be in that range? There wouldn't be much in the Skoda Scala range that would be even a competitor to it. I'll think about that one. Mary says, hi Bob, great reviews. Thanks, no problem at all. Question 1. Any tips for persuading dealers to allow decent time for test driving? That can be a tricky one because of COVID lockdown. They don't even like letting you off on your own, really. But I would have no problem ringing a dealership and say, I want to test drive your car, but I want it overnight or whatever. I want it for an evening. A lot of the dealerships will do that if they get to know you and they get your details and your insurance, they transfer your insurance over to, ask them for a loan of the car. I mean, that happens from time to time. I don't know whether they'd be interested in doing that with you unless you were absolutely serious about buying the car. Question 2, we are moving from a 16-year-old Mondeo to a RAV4. Much difference in size? Yes. Mondeo is bigger in the cabin. The RAV4 is slightly smaller in the cabin if it's a new RAV4. But the RAV4, it has a much higher seating position. It's a lovely car to drive. RAV4 is probably one of my favourite sort of hybrid SUVs. It's a big car. It's bigger than it looks on the outside. As for the test driving, it can be really difficult. Sometimes they only have one car, so you end up taking a car for the whole night. That's a problem. But try arranging picking it up in the evening time when it's sitting outside the front of the dealership, not going anywhere anyway, and you bring it back the next morning like 10 o'clock. Then you have it overnight. You will have to transfer your insurance to it though. Martin Gillespie says, looking at a 3-litre bi-turbo, great car. Bi-turbo is wonderful. What a deadly car to drive, and always was. The sound of that engine is brilliant. Synthetic a little bit, but it sounds like a V8 inside the car. You can't go wrong. Like 1,200 kilometre range in the fuel tank, but it sounds like a V8. What's wrong with that? National Driver Licensing Service, correct, Edward Dunn. NDLS is the one that actually does the licensing bit of the Road Safety Authority. The NDLS work together a lot, and the Road Safety Authority and the Gardaí work together a lot. And then you used to have the National Roads Authority, which is now gone, it's folded into something else. It's all very complicated. Lots of quangos, let's just say. They've all got some responsibility. Paul O'Connor says, is there any info on self-charging EVs yet? Would one imagine the next evolutionary stage? Well, they do kind of self-charge right now when you decelerate, but you have to decelerate an awful lot and to get a decent charge of it. Volkswagen say that you can't be bothered. They take it off. They make it completely freewheel. So they don't bother with the charging because they don't reckon you get enough out of it anyway. Mercedes say you do get some out of it. They add some. Tesla adds some. They all add some in some way or another. But Volkswagen are the ones that, well, Audi particularly were going, nah, you don't need that self-charging thing. It doesn't make any sense. You don't get it. All you're doing is scrubbing scrubbing the power off. You're not getting anywhere. I don't think they actually put in that regen braking thing into the Audi RS, the RS e-tron or the e-tron RS, whatever it was called. I can't remember it being in it for some reason. But as self-charging, no, I don't think it will. I don't think they're going to get that at that point, Paul, to be honest, because batteries just discharge. They only do one thing. They just discharge, and that's all they're ever going to do, I'd say. We'll have to get some other sort of technology to go with it for them to charge themselves again. John Cross says, I got my license after 6 months. We're up, so I had no trouble with my license. Lessons, etc. got last week. Nice, that's all right. You got your 6 months done as well. Fisker, yes, they had a solar panel on the roof. There wasn't the only one though, there's another one as well. Someone else had a solar panel in the roof for charging the 12 volt, and I can't remember, because I remember it being on a press car. It's got on my mind. I think it was one of the Volkswagen group cars. There's Dermot O'Brien as well. How's things? Paul S. Have you driven the facelift Kia Rio GT S-Line? Have you heard this car do sailing, where you take your foot off the gas, the engine stops running while you're driving? Yes, most of them do that these days. Cylinder shutdown it's called, or it'll knock it out of gear, one or the other. So essentially when you're not accelerating on the flat, it knocks out of gear, so the engine goes into idle, and it will just carry on driving. Other ones will actually shut down the entire engine, so it does that sailing effect. They've all got a version of that somewhere. Volkswagen started out by dropping off 2 cylinders as you're driving on a hill. So they knock off 2 cylinders and you drive away. And it would work fine. That progressed on to being actually zero. It would just go to 0 revs if the engine was turned off. And as soon as you touch the accelerator, it comes back on. It's very clever. I don't know how much fuel you actually save doing it. I don't know. It's so hard to estimate how much these things actually save. Whether they save anything or it's just a gimmick or whatever. I'm not sure. But sailing in a car sounds good though, doesn't it? Hobbs says DVLC on strike. Been off for the last 3 weeks. People are spending all day on the phone to them to be told they're busy, ring back later. Oh my god, that'd be very frustrating for any drivers out there trying to get something done with their license. Which reminds me, I need a new passport. I actually booked in my first press trip, so hopefully we'll all be back to normal in October, because I have a press trip on. Could you please open the airports? Thank you. Dason says, Bob, what do you think of the new Model S Plaid? Crazy spec normal drivers have. It is kind of very fast. I mean, there must be a limit to this 0 to 60. Now I know Tesla cheat, right? Let's be serious. Tesla cheat under 0 to 60 times. It's not 0 for a start. They don't count the first 30 or 40 feet, right? If you look it up, that's actually true. So realistically, they're not 60 times. They're much more realistic versus everybody else. Just everybody else actually counts the first 30 feet. It's actually 0 to 100. So that's why you see Matt Watson get the 0 to 60 times or 0 to 100 km an hour time right, and it's close to everybody else apart from Tesla. But the Plaid one looks interesting because 800 kilometers range, which I'm sure is ideal world conditions. That steering wheel with the 2 things on it, like Knight Rider thing, that's illegal. You won't be allowed to have a steering wheel like that. That wouldn't be. I can't imagine any licensing authority actually licensing a steering wheel that shape. It looks dangerous. I mean, if you cross your hands on it, you can't reach the other side, it just looks dangerous. But it looks interesting. But the car itself, this not 60 times, this high speed stuff going on, there has to be a limit to that. Now ordinary people are buying what should be an ordinary car for relatively okay prices, but they're getting supercar performance for it. That's kind of scary. That car can be going very fast in such a short space of time. It's actually lethal. Okay, my wife says she's going out. They're leaving me. That's it. I'm on my own now. Lads night in. Woohoo! Lovely, lovely. Fast Trace 14 says best first car for a young lad that has cheap tax, insurance, and easy to maintain for $3,000. A Corolla. Anything under 1.4 really. Once the engine size stays down, the insurance companies tend to play ball with you. You're not buying a big 2-litre diesel or 2-litre petrol or something. There's a list you can come up with loads of little cars on it, like Kia Picanto, Nissan Micra, Yaris, Hyundai i10, even an i20. Kia Rio is another one as well. Throw in there. The Corolla does them. Everybody does a small engined car in that range. Every car company has one. Just use your head when you're buying the right car. If you want something to last a while, buy a Japanese car. I know European cars can last, but only if they're minded. They really have to be minded from start to finish. What's the crack, says Bob? Where's Junction 14? I'm thinking of going the N7. So the M7 on the way down from Dublin. It is Junction 14 on the M7 Mayfield, just outside Montstreven. Everybody in the country can reach it. It is one of the busiest petrol stations in the whole country. We've done a meet there already. We did a sort of a surprise meet. We actually organised it in a week. And I only did one TikTok about it, and it was full 4 times over. So we filled up, we emptied out, we filled up, we emptied out, filled up and emptied out again. So, and I think that's what's going to happen this time out as well. There is some trucks coming to this one as well. Some show trucks be there too. So it's going to turn into a bigger meet than I thought it was going to be. I thought we'd have plenty of time to organise this, but I don't think we actually have. I think it's going to be chaos. If I'm honest, I think it's going to be mad. But it's okay, because madness can sometimes bring out the best in people. That's what we need to think about. Keep that in your head. Paul Max says, Bob, I was thinking of buying a 2016 Skoda VRS. What do you think? Skoda Octavia RS is very good. VRS, actually, just, I know we have to go through this every once in a while. So the V is a bird. It's not a V. It's the Skoda bird, but it looks like a V. The 2016 Octavia is lovely. RS is lovely. There was actually 2 different ones. There was a diesel and a petrol version. Now the petrol is supercar. The diesel is good if you're driving a long way. If you have a lot of driving to do, the diesel one's fine. If you're not driving a long distance stuff, then the petrol one's going to do you just fine. Petrol one feels more RS-y than the diesel one. If you get what I mean, it feels more, like a fast car than the diesel one does. But they're still both great cars. Try if you can to get them in a state. They just look deadly. I think, it's my opinion, I think they look like rally support crew cars, or they're actually the Tour de France cars at the time. Anthony O'Connell says, sorry for all the questions, but I appreciate the advice. No problem, this is what we're here for. So we're here for the 2 hours. Another 30 minutes to go yet. You're all right. Plenty of time. Gianni Hinku-Belfast. Doesn't sound like a name that comes out of Belfast all that often. Thank you. Your usernames are all over the place. That doesn't even sound like a name, if I'm honest. Mark Ryan says, hi Bob, what's your favourite car you've ever reviewed? I don't have one favourite car. There's so many good cars. Nearly twice or 3 times a year you will get those cars that come along and go bang, and it's just really good, so usually for most years you end up with a favourite car out of the year, and sometimes you end up with ones that are just kind of meh, like fridges, like an Avengers came out and it was kind of mad, this is boring. And in the same year I think they released a Corolla, which is really good. So some car companies do that as well. Current kind of favourites, Audi RS7 still sticks with me. I had it last year, I think I had it last year or this year sometime. The video didn't do big numbers written, but the car was just outstanding. It looked amazing to look at the car, even from a distance. So one of those really good. ID4 left me with a really good impression of electric cars. Tesla Model S, when it came out first, was really, really good. I'd go back to, say, something like the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quattrofoglio. That one, super car. There's so many cars that kind of come and go over the years that have just been brilliant. They're remarkable cars. I'd love to buy an Alfa 159 Estate. That's what I'd actually like to buy for myself. It's not because it's the best car in the world. It's just I fell in love with the look of the car. Not even the engines or nothing. Just the look of the thing was just great. Rory Mohan, hi Bob, I'm thinking of buying a Ford Kuga ST Line PHEV as a Ford, or doing a 4K trade-in boost for my 11. That was the one that went on fire. I don't mean that out loud, but that was the one that went on fire, the PHEV one, the Kuga. It was recalled, some plastic thing was fixed or twiddled with, and it's all back to normal again now. Kuga's good and has been good for a long time. Ford didn't do well with the PHEV stuff when it started off. First, because it started with Mondeo, and they put what looked like a coffin in the boot, and it encroached in the Mondeo actual boot space. Just this black. It's stupid. First thing I said, I opened the boot and looked at him and, why have you put a coffin in the boot? Because that is a big box in the boot where the battery is. So they made mistakes at the beginning, but they seem to have solved that with the Kuga. And it looks well. Actually looks okay. 4K trade-in boost for 11D. What are they going to do with your events? Sell it on or destroy it? I just wondered, is that like a, trade-in, it's gone, I don't want to see it again. But nice car. You won't know yourself. Coming out of a Toyota Venza from 11, which is a fairly boring standard car, the Kuga will feel like a great car. Robin Mulhall, thanks, Monovision. All right. Mark Turner Smith, remember the early 2000s, 2005 Vauxhall Astra biofuel models? Dire things, didn't last long. No. See, the problem is fuel is petrol, diesel is part of the lubrication system of a car. So technically, it's actually lubricating bits inside the car when it's going. So diesel is oily. If you ever put diesel on your fingers, it stays there. The smell stays there for ages until you wash it off. It doesn't evaporate. It sits there like an oil. So in a diesel engine, a lot of the lubrication comes from the actual fuel. Whereas petrol, modern petrol, is evaporating type fuel. So if it's on your fingers, it just evaporates off and actually leaves very little residue on your hand. So it's nearly gone after a couple of seconds. Like you could pour petrol on the ground and you can set fire to it. It's highly flammable. But diesel would put a match out on the ground, just with no combustible bits around it, just pouring on tarmac. So if you throw biofuel on the ground, you have to get it all right to make that happen, depending on what you want to use it for. So do you want wet fuel? Do you want dry fuel? Do you want that kind of dryness that comes? That's why lead replacement became popular for those kind of 80s cars that needed lead to run, because it's actually the lubrication of the fuel that's gone missing from petrol. But diesel still, that stinking stuff in your hand. It's actually horrible smell. I don't now more electric cars. I actually don't miss putting diesel in cars. I used to have to carry around rubber gloves and everything with me because the smell. It would be on the steering wheel. You know, you get back into the car and you put your hands on the steering wheel. You go, oh no, I'm not putting diesel in the steering wheel as well. Ugh. Smell of it there forever. But yeah, you're right, Mark. Vauxhall Astras, the older engine, the noise of the thing, they clattered their way up the road. The smell of diesel off them, the smell of biofuel off them. Do you remember Johnny Smith? Friend of the channel, he's on Instagram as well, and the Fully Charged show, not Fully Charged, what's he called? Late Break Show. Do you remember Johnny Smith did a segment about putting chip fat into a diesel car from the 80s, a Mercedes? That was totally possible. That worked. You could do that here in Ireland, but the revenue can be out there. And customs. Just so you know, you're supposed to pay tax on it. Anthony O'Connell, would you be better off paying a bit more for a Skoda Kamiq than buying a new Seat Leon? Yes, Kamiq is a nicer car, by far. A nicer car to drive and own and just be in. Seat Leon's good, but it is 5-door hatchback versus 5-door hatchback that looks like an SUV. So between the two of them, they are different cars. But I find Skoda's really, really comfortable and nice to drive. I find the new Leons just kind of annoying. You look at it go, you nearly have a really good car here. Why did you do that with the infotainment system? And why have you done that with the seats and things? There should have been the sporty arm of the Volkswagen Group, and they've kind of fallen between the cracks a little bit lately with their offerings. And I just find it really aggravating to see them. Because they can make, my own cars, 2006, they make good cars. They make good cars when they really try hard. But I think Volkswagen's just torpedoed their spend and stuff. So I would go with Skoda Kamiq. I think it's a nicer car, yes. Daniel Flynn. Hey Bob, great to have you back on Sunday. Thank you. What do you think of the BMW 330e? Great car, yeah. Will PHEV hold its value? Oh, absolutely. PHEV is going to be the one that will hold the value most, I think, because you don't have to make the decision. You don't have to say, I am going all in electric. You can go in semi-electric. You can charge a PHEV from a 3-pin plug. It usually comes with a granny cable in the boot. Normally that's enough. You can get like a 3 amp or 3 version normal 3-pin plug anywhere. So even on your holiday home, you've got a 3-pin plug already there. You can charge a PHEV, but you're never stuck. So you're never kind of stuck in the infrastructure of the electric car scene because you're driving a PHEV, which means you've got a petrol engine there to back you up. There is diesel PHEVs you can buy as well. They tend to be a lot more expensive, but I would certainly think that the BMW 330e and 530e and those kind of cars are coming out now in PHEV form will be worth more in the future, as people will still be on the fence or just going, well, look, electric's not working out, I'm afraid. Something has changed and electric's not as attractive as it was before. Let's go with a PHEV, and they're happy enough with it. Because remember, it's just a hybrid when it's not charged. It just goes on as a normal hybrid. Now it will do far better fuel economy when there's a bit of charge in them. But I like PHEVs, and I like the BMW 330e as well. Not many of them around. There is a few now. The other day when I was in Kerry's making a film, I did see 3 of them, if memory serves, on the forecourt for sale. There was a one there that I really liked the look of. It had a splitter at the bottom of it. It looked like a real cool looking version of the car, because they're all basically the same underneath. Robert Mulhall, Bob, any options of the Mustang Mach-E? No. Ford have been so slow, even putting out a press release about the Mach-E in Ireland. How much it's going to be, where we're going to see it, how long it's going to be before it gets here. You see, the problem is the shortage of everything, essentially. Shortage of chips for all cars, shortage of batteries, shortage of just places to build things because of Brexit. You have to remember, last year there's a huge big 8-month hole in the year of building cars. That's the problem. That's it. That's the big issues, that backlog of stuff. People are ordering cars now, won't be delivered until 2022. And so we're still looking at that Mach-E moment where Ford is going to come along and wowed a lot of us with their technologically advanced stuff that's really brilliant. And we're still going, you know, Ford, you still make the F-150. And you still make the Ford Ranger Raptor. You still make all these other cars. Why are you making a Mustang Mach-E? Truth be told, I would actually just buy a Mustang. I like Mustangs. Mustangs are, you know, cool. Actual ones, 5-litre ones, are nifty. But I'd love to see the Mach-E. I'd actually love to drive it. Just see if Ford are as good as they think they are. But unfortunately as well, on the flip side of that, Ford Ireland are near as makes no difference shut. They're much more of a skeleton staff than it used to be. And so most of Ford operations now is done from Ford UK. So we are very much further down the queue of cars that are coming in. So you will start to see things from the UK first. Jamie Healy. Well, lad. I mean, that's a very... are you from Laois? No? Here's a good one for you. I live in Drogheda and had to insure a 1.6 Focus at my address is €4,500. But if I put my address as my nana's, which is just outside Drogheda, it's 1,700. Now, you see, that is the wonderful point of the insurance companies of this country. Address does play a factor. And so if you live in an area where your car is more likely to be damaged or crashed into or stolen, obviously the insurance rate is higher for that area. But it's funny that within Drogheda zone, within that same area, such a dramatical difference in price. So the biggest factors on price of insurance is, first of all, obviously the car. So the size of the engine and what kind of car it is. Because insurance companies don't want to take a chance on you, even though that's why you're buying insurance, so you can take the chances. But anyway, the point of insurance is the size of the engine, the price of the car, the kind of car it is, obviously. Then it's your age, then it's your address. They're the 4 things that really play the biggest factors on insurance. After that, it's where it's stored, kind of the age of the car plays a factor, the value of the actual car plays a factor, those kind of things. But it's more about repairing damage than actually replacing the car. So the value of the car isn't actually that biggest overall thing that involves it. But if you get it wrong, they'll hold you to it all the same. But it is a pain to see insurance companies do that to people, where they can just go from 4,500 quid to 1,700 quid because of a change of address. I'm still waiting for someone to ring up and ask the insurance, to ring up and get a quote off the car insurance, and then tell them that you're a girl. Ring them back and go, no, I'm a female. My name is bobflavin and I'm a BOBBI and I'm a female. I haven't tried it to see. I know you're not allowed to do it. They're not allowed to do it. But yet I keep being told on TikTok in the comments from young drivers that their sister gets a better quote in the same house with the same car than they do as a male. Just saying. I'm only pointing things out like. Kieran Brown says, "Hello Bob, it's the Silver Fox, only platform with normal name." How are you, Kieran? The Silver Fox, I remember you from TikTok, yeah. John Cross, Bob, is there really much insurance cost between 1.6 and 2 litre cars? There can be, depends on the brand of car. If you were to take a Jetta 1.6 and a Jetta 2 litre, there would be a difference in value because the car is a bigger engine and it's actually more expensive anyway. But if you were to say something like a Corolla 2 litre petrol versus a Jetta 1.6 diesel, you probably find the Jetta is even higher on price because they load certain brands of cars and certain cars. They don't tell you what that loading comes from. They don't explain that to anybody. They just load the cars up and let you off because they know you're only going to ring about the car you want. Because if you're looking at a car, if you're asking a car insurance company about a car, they assume you own it. So you have to give them a license plate and everything off the car. So you've already bought the car. They know you have you. So they know you're not going to ring around looking for a different car. IDC said, looking forward to Junction 14 car meet. Hope all goes to plan for no messing. There won't be any messing. I'll tell you why I know there's 2 things here working in a favour. This is why myself and the management team of Junction 14 have been working together for the last about 2 months or so on this. First of all, there's only one road in and out of Junction 14. There isn't a back exit. So lads can't go out a back exit and do something stupid. They're going to have to do it in front of everybody. 2, there's CCTV cameras everywhere in Junction 14. The whole car park is covered by them. And 3, we've already been in contact with the Garda Síochána to talk about the night and see if we can do something with them. We're trying to get in touch with them to get people down so they know it's on. So we can do some traffic management and stuff. But also after our last meet there, it's going to be so full, it's actually very hard to get anything, to start messing at an event when there's too many people at it. It's just very hard to do it there. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well. Look, we're all into a bit of messing. We all like a bit of messing. We all want a bit of crack as well. But you can have crack without putting people in danger. And cars, by their very nature, are huge, expensive, heavy. They can do fierce harm when they're done wrong. So things go wrong when lads start to mess. And when things go wrong, that's where meets get cancelled. That's where things end up horrific. We end up with stuff on the front page of newspapers and stuff. We cannot have that. We need to have a meet like I had last night, with a great, lovely time up in Drogheda last night, hanging around the car park. There was no mess at all. There was music. There was people hanging around. It was just chat. It was a chill out zone. That's exactly what we're after. Summer vibes in Junction 14 on the 31st of the month. If you want something a bit sooner than that, on the 12th, I think it's the 12th of July. Let me just look at my calendar now, make sure I'm right. Hold on. Sorry, the 11th of July, there will be a Cars and Coffee in Junction 14 at 10 a.m. if you want to come along to that. That's not necessarily my meet. That's just Junction 14 doing their thing. And on the 18th of July, there is a Cars and Coffee here in Portlaoise at Portlaoise Plaza. I'll be putting this out on my Instagram and on TikTok if you want to keep up to date. They're the kind of live place I can put things out on. So I'll put them out there too. So if you want to come down, I'll be at both of those if you want to come along. I'm going to be I'll be at both of those. And if it goes well, they'll be over before the Sunday service starts. So I'll do the Sunday service in the afternoon as well. See, working all day, every day. Thanks to your support over the last few months, I've been able to upgrade the camera. I have a new laptop. We have new lights. We have, what else am I asking? Oh, a new GoPro Hero 9. That's coming from you guys, from the support. Everything has gone into new equipment, which is why the videos now look glossier and nicer somehow. I don't know. It depends on which one you're watching, obviously. So some of the older ones are still filtered through, by the way. Some of the old Canon ones. Paul S. Hi Bob, I was thinking of buying a Peugeot 208 GT. What's your advice on the small steering wheel? I don't like that. It blocks the dashboard. It just drives me. That small steering wheel really gets me, Paul. I'm 6'1". I don't know what that is in meters. 1.3 meters or 1.2 meters. I'm tall anyway. So when I sit in any of the Peugeots, I can only see maybe the bottom half of the instrument binnacle or the top half. Depends on where I put the steering wheel. And that small steering wheel means that you're doing this on a motorway the whole time. You're this constant sort of tugging at the steering wheel. Because it's so small, it's very sensitive on the motorway. Peugeot went with a few years ago. Day one, car one, I got in a minute. I don't like this. The steering wheel is too small. And everybody goes, like a go-kart. And I'm going, yeah, but I don't like it. And they've stuck with it ever since. I don't know why. Because I've driven the Peugeot 208 with the small steering wheel and the Opel Corsa with the normal steering wheel, and the Corsa drives way better. It's lovely. So I find myself recommending the Corsa now instead of the Peugeot. Peugeot, stop that with the steering wheel, will you? Hellhound says, what does AdBlue mean that you can drive a diesel short start stop turns without plugging up the DPF? Not really. AdBlue, so AdBlue is put into the fuel. What it does is lower the temperature that the soot can be burned inside the DPF. So DPF is a diesel particulate filter. It captures the diesel particulates, the big heavy stuff going out. And then the DPF runs a cycle and it heats up like it glows red and it burns that soot off again a second time, making it lower CO2 and lower NOx every time. AdBlue allows that temperature to be even lower so it can burn more particles. That's really all it does. A diesel should never really be used for short journeys anyway. It never gets up to temperature. If I drove a petrol and diesel car side by side, both starting dead cold, the petrol would be warm in probably half a kilometre. A diesel won't be warm for maybe 10 kilometres. They take a long time to get warm inside the engine because of the way they combust. So a diesel engine uses the pressure of combustion, the speed of combustion, or the speed of compression to combust. So the piston goes up into the cylinder very quickly, and as fast as it does, it causes an explosion at the top, and that comes back down again. Whereas petrol uses a spark plug. So it compresses, the spark plug ignites, and then the fuel comes back down burnt. And so a diesel takes a lot longer to get warm because it hasn't got spark plugs. Whereas the petrols get warm straight away. So you should never really use a diesel for any short journey, not any really short journeys. I'm talking about just, if you're driving from, like us here, my wife's gone off to the shops there. So in that journey, she's probably going to cover 4 kilometres. A diesel wouldn't even start to get warm there. Not even close. You're doing harm to the engine at that point. But that little Leon, 1.6 petrol, it'll be hot by the end of the road. They're lovely yokes. I had one of the coldest mornings I ever had here. Freezing cold. I had a VW Up 3-cylinder engine. And I walked outside the door. I started the car and I drove around the corner and it was warm. And it was already heat coming out of the heating thing, and it was freezing outside. It was like minus temperatures, and I had to drive to the airport, and it was lovely. It was a joyful little car. I should have bought one. That's one of the cars that can buy. That's Skoda Citigo, Say It Me, and VW Up, where 3 cars came out, and I actually regret not buying one of them. I should have bought one at a time. Wow, that's gone lemony now. Woo! Fast Race 14 says we have a 2006N2 Polo 1 litre petrol home, and it's a bulletproof, better than newer Polos, heading for classic status. Same as my Leon. Like, my Leon's 17. I might as well just hold on to it now, like. One owner since new, you'd be surprised how fast it clocks up. I didn't even notice the last 10 years. The car just worked. One of those, it's not like something that's always in and out of a garage. You're always going, oh no, this thing's broke down. It never seen the inside of a garage because it never done enough mileage. So it never really had to go and get anything major replaced on it. So it's only ever been servicing that we've done it. Now, like a service on that was, I think even at the main dealer, was 120 quid. I could service for about 70 quid, buying the parts myself and doing it here. But like any good car, it just keeps going. Now, the air conditioner's broke, but that's been broke since like year 1. Because Waters, the place I bought it, hadn't, at the time when I bought it, 2006, I think it went in 2007. There was no one in Ireland at that time who could fix air conditioning. No one. We were selling cars with all the air conditioners in them. We'd no one to fix the things. By the time someone came around to fix them, it had been broken so long that we just forgot about it. So we don't bother. And we never needed it anyway. It's fine. And I loved it. And so it's always hung around. So you have like a 2000 car there. Sure, hold on to it at this stage. You might as well at this stage. It's not worth getting rid of. Another car I sold and I should have never got rid of was a Toyota Carina E. I had it. I sold it. And I forever regret it. It was a 97, 2007, 2027. So it would be coming up on 20 years old, or 30 years old anyway. Amazing car at this stage of nearly 30 years old. And it's still on the road, and your man still refuses to sell it back to me. But it was mine from new. I serviced it every time on my own. I did everything to that car. If it needed a windscreen wiper, it got it immediately. It was my favourite car of all times. I was able to do 800 miles to a tank of petrol for the lean burn engine, and it was never a taxi. And I bought it in Fitzpatrick in Kildare, and I absolutely adored that car. I used to polish it regularly the day before computers, before I had any time to do it with anything. But it was a lovely car, and I miss it. I still miss it today, and I'd buy it back if it's ever. I'll check with him again. He's still on the road. Paul S says, Dave Davis, thank you to pick the right car for your daughter and a Seat Leon a couple of years ago. Great car. I love Seat Leons, but the modern infotainment system is very annoying, I have to say. It really is. Where else are we? You're all answering each other. You all answer your own question. Anyway, listen, I'm going to wrap it up because it is now 5:24. We've come to the end of the show, but we've got some housekeeping to do. Over the next few months, Alan Acaster had a Carina GTI. I had one of them years ago, long ago with the Mark II. Yes, it had an MR2 2-litre engine. Long before I actually had that 97 Carina, I had the older Carina GTI. But anyway, housekeeping. So, over the next few weeks, we're back as normal, but some of the Sunday services will come from a car meet or from a car destination or something. So they'll be live, but outdoors, because that's what summer's all about, right? So we're trying to do something a little bit different. I had to arrange things, so I bought the iPhone and stuff as well. Get better camera on it, better mic, better everything, and I can hook up my wireless mics to them and stuff. and we'll do something interesting in a live sense over the next while. Also, put in your diaries what did I say it was, the 17th of this month, or the 11th, 12th of this month? 11th of July, Cars and Coffee Junction 14. I will be at that. That's at 10 a.m. The 18th of July, Cars and Coffee in Portlaoise Plaza. I will be at that as well. And the 31st of July, Junction 14 meet will actually take place, which will be at 7 p.m. that night. If you're coming to that, for God's sake, get there early. It's going to be jammed, I think. And getting people in and out of that one area is actually, we found last time as well, is quite difficult. We're putting some traffic management rules in place now, so you'll have to go around the entire place to get in and out. But it was absolutely brilliant the last time we did it, so we're hoping to do that again. You can follow me over on TikTok or on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. I went through a period where everybody on Facebook was suddenly asked me to be friends on Facebook, but then I realized that Facebook has a maximum of 4,000 friends. That's it. So I'm near that 4,000 now. So I've created a Republic of Motors page, or you can join the Sunday Service page, which is attached directly to this broadcast every week. That's worth a follow if you want to get over to that, because it's just a good little place to hang out. Lads just post nice, interesting things there. Just get on with your lives. It's lovely. Republic of Motors is more about events that come up. If you know of an event, a car event, you want it publicised, and it looks like a genuine one, we'll put it on the Republic of Motors Facebook page, and you can get 4,000 or 5,000 likes or something. I don't know, 5,500 followers of that page as well. So I'm everywhere. If you want to get in touch with me directly, my DMs are always open. At any platform you find me, apart from TikTok. It's bloody impossible to manage the DMs on TikTok. So use Instagram is probably the best one if you want to get in touch with me directly about something, or you have a problem, or whatever it is. Talk to Joe, talk to Bob instead. It's the way to do it. Thank you very much for joining me on the first one back of the year again for the last 2 months. It's been brilliant to have you along. I hope I see you here next week. And don't forget bobflavin.com if you want to order some stuff. These t-shirts will be up there next week. Anyway, look after yourselves. And until the next time, I get to say this again. Are you ready to say it with me? And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.